board members in the IDT.
So let's just help us understand this according to you. What should have been the procedure, and then what did the minister do, and then we'll talk about what you intend doing next.
Yeah, the procedure is that the minister must appoint or establish a selection committee which is going to run the entire appointment or nomination process, advertise in public newspapers, interview candidates, and successful candidates are now forwarded to minister for appointment. If minister is satisfied, then he will appoint them. So there is no selection committee which was established by minister to run this process. He just requested or ordered the board to run with the entire nomination process, and the board do not have powers to effect that process.
Okay, so therefore, what is your plan of action?
So based the reason we wrote to the minister to nullify the process, failure which we will make an urgent application in the High Court of South Africa to interdict the entire process. But over and above that, we did our investigation, and we realized that the individuals, I think 3 individuals who are appointed through this irregular process are the former board members who resigned last year when Minister Sihlezi Galala served them with letters with an intention to showing the intention to terminate their board membership because there were serious allegations against them. So they resigned and ran away.
So you're saying, I mean, part of it is the process you're concerned about, but you're also not happy with the actual choices. Is that what you're saying in the basis of what you just said?
We are also not happy with the actual choices because the credibility of the appointed candidates are questionable. To us, they are brought back into the board. They have just resigned as a hired gun because they have forever been in loggerheads with the CEO of the IDT, Ms. Tebogo Malaga.
All right, so before, threatening to go to court, I take it that you've approached the Department of Public Works, you've had a chat with whether it's the minister or the DG. Have you done that?
Yes, we wrote a letter to the minister to say, you have followed an irregular procedure. You must follow a due process and respond to us before 5 p.m. today. So we are waiting to see, but there have never been any response that we have received from minister. I think we just have to be prepared to go to the High Court.
Okay, in fact, we approached the Department of Public Works, right? And the spokesperson is Lennox Mabaso. So he's not coming on the air today, but they did issue this comment saying, we expressly reject their accusations as they clearly haven't read the trust deed. However, we will be responding to the legal letter and will be commenting when it's appropriate to do so. So I take it that's finished and clear. They're going to respond in legal forum.
Then that's the reason we are ready to go to court, because we are not going to tolerate ministers, political heads, running our public institutions as if they are their spaza shops, having a high disregard of the law. Obviously, it was anticipated that they will defend themselves. So that is why the matter must just be resolved in the court of law.
Okay, what for you would be, when you say resolved in the court of law, I mean, and here's the final question, what for you would be the ideal outcome?
No, must be ordered to follow a due process as prescribed by the trust deed, because as an organization, we have sufficient information, to conclude that the due process is not followed purely because the minister is trying to implement cadre deployment. Even though people have left the board with serious allegations. He's bring them back without vetting them, without having a little interest on the reasons which have made them to resign.
When you say cadre deployment, normally that accusation is leveled against a opponent from the same party. I mean, we now have a complex GNU, so not everybody's from the same political party. Would that accusation still stand ground?
No, it still does, because the Ministry of Public Works is under Democratic Alliance. So that is why the minister is from this, is McPherson. And we also check his footprints. Some of the candidates appointed, he also appointed them in the CIDB, another entity within the Department of Public Works.
All right.
So to us, we see this as a cadre deployment for the Democratic Alliance minister, and the cadre deployment is nepotism. So because. Yeah.
All right. Let's leave it at that. Let's see how it works out. As you said, it looks like they're going to not meet your 5 p.m. deadline. So we're certainly going to follow that story. Advocate Gagodi Morota, the CEO of the Black Forum South Africa. There we are. Issue. They concerned about what they see as irregular appointments by the Minister Dean McPherson to replace 5 vacant members to the independent or the IDT, the Independent Development Trust. Any thoughts that you may have on that? Let's hear it. You can call in 086 000 2032 to go live, then to WhatsApp, text or voice note. And I'm also saying, if you're a first-time listener, I want to know about it. 061 104 107. You got that? And then you can also tweet SAFM Radio and then tag me, Ashraf Garda. Use that hashtag, as always, the National Pulse. Let's move to the DRC next.
This is a story of Vodacom's impact.
Having the psychosocial support team has benefited us a lot. You're now able to refer to a specialist. We can accredit that to Vodacom.
This is why we do it. We've deployed psychosocial professionals specializing in GBV and bullying across 30 schools of excellence and ECD centers, helping over 30,000 learners. That's why we're the #1 CSI contributor for 8 years running. See more at now.vodacom.coza. Further together, Vodacom.
Think bigger than just a banking partner. Think a team of specialized experts supporting you to make better financial decisions to enable your growth aspirations. Think a strategic partnership providing indispensable advice to help you make the right moves. Think bigger. Think Nedbank Commercial Banking. For more information, visit nedbank.co.za. See money differently. Nedbank. We're a licensed FSP and registered credit provider.
Right, Durban is excited to welcome visitors this Easter season. It's upon us, right? Almost. So join the family-friendly fun with unforgettable day tours along the Golden Mile, indoor and outdoor adventures and delicious culinary delights. Don't miss the grand opening of the West Town Square on the 27th of March, so that's imminent. Durban's newest lifestyle destination in Shongweni. This multi-million rand project, in fact, is set to transform the city's western corridor. As Africa's event capital, Durban will host major events this season, including the joyous celebration, Easter Mega Fest, and the Pre-Easter Gospel Festival. Discover the excitement in Africa's playground. For more details and Easter packages, go to the website, visit Durban. It's called Visit Durban. Visit Durban.travel. And then hashtag Durban Easter News 2025, hashtag Discover Durban, hashtag Visit Durban. Basically, everything tells you Durban.
If we have rights, shouldn't we also have opinions? SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. Ashraf Garda on SAFM.
Okay, let's now talk about the issues in the DRC. You know, it's an issue that we've covered extensively because things change by the week, I would think, right? So diplomatic efforts to resolve the Eastern Congo's conflict continues as the Southern and East Africa blocs, including South Africa in this case here, they've appointed 5 former heads of state, and those include Nigeria's Olusegun Obasanjo, South Africa's former president Kgalema Motlanthe, Ethiopia's Sahle Work Zwedi, to facilitate the peace process. Now, this is certainly a powerful delegation, but the big question is, are they in a position to secure the peace? And always when it comes to peace, a just peace. So when we talk about potholes, what sort of potholes are they going to face right now? Nixon Katemba with me, African Affairs commentator who also works for Channel Africa. Nixon, appreciate you connecting on the National Pulse. Hello.
Thanks for having me, Ashraf.
Thank you.
Good afternoon to you and your listeners.
Right, so last week it was where the leader of the DRC and the leader of Rwanda met in Qatar. What has happened since then that has warranted now 5, heads of state to meet up?
I think it's because there has been changes on the ground where the M23 promised to withdraw from the town of Masisi and later on renegated on that promise and continued the fighting. While on the other hand, the mediator in the peace process in Luanda, commonly known as Luanda, President Joao Lorenzo also has withdrawn his mediation efforts from the process, which then leave the entire issue in a limbo. But also the lack of sincerity in the diplomatic engagement both on the part of the DRC government as well as the Rwandan government and the M23 in this case, not really talking truth and speaking in double tongue over the issue. So that is the problem. I hope that the appointed mediators, including former President Kgalema Motlanthe, will get to the bottom of these issues.
And I mean, you personally, based upon your understanding of geopolitics on the African continent, do you get a sense that these mediators have the gravitas to effectively, mediate to a point where they can force a peace?
That can only come within. They cannot force this, but they can only lay out the ground for discussions to happen, and the belligerent parties, including those involved both inside. But remember, this is a conflict with various vested interests, both at a regional level and in external level, as well as internal political dynamics within the DRC. And I think President Tshisekedi and his inner circle have demonstrated a sort of ambivalence approach to the conflict. One day they are agreeing on this, the other day they are not agreeing on this, and one day they say they will talk to the M23, and the other day they refuse to talk to the M23. But on the other side also, the M23 itself, they say that they are going to stop for the ceasefire, and they do not. So does Rwanda. Rwanda as well. Remember, they were due to sign a peace agreement with the DRC, and President Kagame did not show up in Rwanda. And for me, who have followed the event in the region, there is a precedent. If you follow the history of the conflict in the Great Lakes region in East Africa, you would recall that the conflict that brought Yoweri Museveni in Uganda and the NRM, they were discussing the peace talks in Nairobi with the government of Tito Okello Lutwa, while the war was continuing in a region called Luwero in central Uganda. And the same happened in a conflict in Rwanda, where they were signing the peace agreement in Arusha, and then the plane of Habyarimana was downed at Kanombe Airport in Kigali, triggering the genocide. So you see historical patterns of lack of diplomatic sincerity on the part of the belligerent, both across the board in East Africa and the Central, the Great Lakes region, and particularly now with the DRC, which involve Rwanda as well. I don't see in Tshisekedi the diplomatic sincerity that to cover to wanting to bring peace. So I think what Tshisekedi is looking at is to look at his own regime and the political survival within the broader context of the DRC, while ignoring the core issues that are bedevouring the security situation in the East. Okay. While on the other side in Rwanda, they are looking at not only their security and economic interests in the region under the guise that they are protecting the Tutsi minority in the Eastern DRC, but whereas we know for the fact that this is an economic war, this is a war of political interest, but also the international dynamics. Now you have heard of the DRC wanting to hand over mineral right to the United States. That tells you something. The European Union also coming out sanctioning some of the generals in the Rwandan army as well as the M23. Yet it's the same European Union that just last year recently signed a mineral deal agreement with the government of Rwanda.
Yeah.
So those are the issues that the mediator have to look at and make sure that.
So therefore, I mean, just in a nutshell, and I know it's complex, right? I mean, when we talk about these mediators and what needs to be negotiated, what for you? Because I mean, we can look at 10 things, but ultimately there's like 2-3 things that absolutely can make a deal stick or break it. What would you be looking for?
Number one is silencing the gun and stopping bloodshed. If they can secure that, then the political process might start, and they have to look at what are the precedent thereof, and the Sun-Seeker agreement that was negotiated under South Africa back then through the stewardship of former President Thabo Mbeki and Nelson Mandela at the time. There can be a starting point and reviewing what has gone wrong, that the DRC has slid back in a way to where in the early 1998 or 2000 to the current situation. Then building the diplomatic bloc on the basis of what need to be brought forward, taking into account the geopolitics of the current reality in the country and in the region.
Lastly, are you hopeful? Yes, no, maybe?
No, I'm not hopeful at the moment. It's a difficult question to answer given the dynamics within the Congo, particularly the current regime under Tshisekedi, but also the unpredictability of Paul Kagame himself as a president, and the support that he's giving to the M23. Yet he's going around to negotiate with the government of the DRC, even after refusing that he's not involved and that he's a Congo problem.
Wonder why. Let's say we can leave it. Nixon Katembo, so on a tightrope, and let's see what happens. Nixon is the African Affairs commentator and also works for Channel Africa. Very important insights in the DRC. Now, if you are from the DRC and you are in South Africa, or you are from Rwanda and you're in South Africa right now, in particular, I'd love to know what you make of all of this, because you have a complete vested interest in what's happened there. But beyond that, I mean, you could be from anywhere on the continent. What do you make of it? Let's get to the news headlines now. Here's Daneo.
A very good afternoon. Let's take a look at the headlines at 3:30. Home Affairs Minister Leon Schreiber says a digitized system will strengthen efforts to combat fraud and corruption at South Africa's borders. In other news, President Cyril Ramaphosa says the cutting of U.S. aid to South Africa has been a wake-up call. And the MEC for Finance in KwaZulu-Natal, Francois Rogers, says the province received an increase in its conditional grant allocation from national government of 2.6 billion rand. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N12 R24 westbound in Bedfordview has a crash reported at Gululi's interchange, queuing traffic on both routes. The M2 westbound in Crown has delays towards Main Reef Road. The M1 southbound in Bromfontein is slow moving towards Crown interchange, and the M1 northbound has a crash reported before Woodmead Drive. In KZN, on the P385, slow moving traffic reported south of the N3 highway, and Old North Coast Road is closed just north of Columbine Place. In the Eastern Cape, on the N6, a truck crash recovery underway between Stutterheim and Cathcart. In Cape Town, on the N2 outbound, a police incident reported before Borchards Quarry Road. Bakencroft Street outbound is slow moving towards the elevated freeway, and Jan Smuts Drive southbound in Athlone is slow moving towards Klipfontein Road. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Zai's show, because Tumi is sick, but Zai, I can tell you what, Tumi is not the only person who's sick. I'm also sick. and I'm not saying I'm ill. I'm sick about the Bafana news. You better tell me what's going on. I'm furious.
I am also like, what is this all about? Where did this come from? How did we not know? So many questions, so little answers. But let me tell you what the real story is. Midfielder Teboho Mokoena may have been ineligible to play in last week's win over Lesotho, having picked up yellow cards in earlier games against Benin and Zimbabwe. Now, FIFA rule states that 2 yellows in separate matches mean a suspension. And if this is confirmed, South Africa could lose those precious 3 points. Yeah, that could knock us off the top of Group C and throw the qualifiers wide open. It's a developing story. We'll bring you the details.
But can I ask you, I mean, maybe you don't know the full story here. So, I mean, you say may have picked up 2 yellow cards. So did he pick up 2 yellow cards or not?
Yeah.
So it's definitely done that.
Definitely done.
And that would mean a suspension. So the question is, he played.
He played.
Now the thing to prove is, like, did he play in error? But I mean, there's really no case on that.
No.
If you played, you played, even if it's an error.
There's no what ifs in soccer.
Yeah. So in this case here, they'd be deducted. It's like they didn't play the game. They'd be deducted the 3 points. So from a position of huge possibilities of topping the group and getting to the World Cup, we're now in trouble.
From mayhem magic to mayhem madness.
Oh my goodness.
I don't know what to say.
Is Donald Trump not involved here at the show? I'm just checking.
I'm sure there's a Musk-Trump alliance going on here, but let me just tell you as well, there's also Banyana coach Desiree Ellis questioning why the defending of the Women's Africa Cup of Nations champions are not being counted among the next tournament favourites by the pundits. Banyana begin their WAFCON title against Ghana in the tournament in Morocco, and that's scheduled from the 5th to the 26th of July. Rugby, Jason Jenkins has revealed their game plan to stop Leinster's towering Springbok Archie Snyman in Saturday's United Rugby Championship clash. The 4th place Durban side edged the Zebra 35-34 last weekend, and they can't afford another scare. Jenkins, once a teammate of Snyman, says there's no magic formula. They've got the veteran prop Healy reportedly in town, and the Irish Giants may also bring some of their rested Six Nations stars. And athletics news, South Africa's 100-meter record holder Akani Simbine insists that his world indoor bronze medal does not define his career. Simbine secured his first individual global medal at the World Indoor Championships in China.
It's just a statement just to say that, like, yes, the medal I've got it, it's been a long time waiting for the medal, but it doesn't define my career, it doesn't define me. My career is still a career of, resilience and determination, and also just pushing the boundaries. I've been the first African to do this thing at this level for so long, and I've consistently been there. So for me, it's been that, and I'm still going to be that athlete that shows up. I'm still that athlete that wants to be on the highest level, that wants to compete at the highest level, and wants to be the best.
And finally, Sepp Blatter and Michel Platini won again in court and now lead 2-0 in trial verdicts against the Swiss federal prosecutors. Once soccer's most powerful men, former FIFA President Blatter and former UEFA President Platini, were acquitted for a second time in a case now in its 10th year on charges of fraud, forgery, mismanagement and misappropriation of more than $2 million. And a further appeal to the Swiss Supreme Court can be filed by the prosecutor's office, which said in a statement it will decide about how to further proceed. And that's a wrap of your sport. We'll have more top of the hour. I'm Zara.
By the way, I'm just looking at this bit of trivia. 33 years ago today, Pakistan beat England in the 1992 World Cup. And what's significant about it, that's the first World Cup South Africa played. That 22 of 11 balls and 22 of 1 ball in that semi-final.
What rule was that? It made no sense that we were going to have 1 ball to hit 22 runs, and that's how we lost because of the rain.
It's the same rule that says who checks the yellow cards for the team before they get selected. Yeah.
Oh, throw the rule book at them.
Right, more sport in an hour.
What you're about to hear is not an email from Standard Bank. Good day, Dave. You haven't updated your details, so your account will soon be blocked. Please confirm your card number, bank PIN, card CVV number by clicking the link below. What? Don't fall for it. Standard Bank will never ask for your banking details in an email. Visit our help center on the banking app to learn more or call our fraud line on 0800 222 050. Another lesson to hashtag beat the scam. Standard Bank is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
This Human Rights Month, SAFM is deepening a culture of social justice and human rights. It's a time to reflect, engage, and take action for a more just society. From thought-provoking discussions to powerful stories, SAFM is leading the conversations that move us. Because your voice matters, your rights matter, and together we shape a better future. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. Do great solutions start with good conversation? SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. You're listening to the National Pulse.
So let's talk business, and let's talk about South Africa and business. Now, Michael Jordan is with us. I saw yesterday that, according to a report, the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, they said that South Africa is the most difficult place in the world to do business. I then picked up a tweet from Michael Jordan, remember the former CEO of FNB, but also another chair of Montegray, and very involved in investments in Bank Zero and Rain as well. He said it is hard, but struggling to agree with the IMF on that issue regarding South Africa. I'm just paraphrasing. So we thought, let's find out exactly what Michael Jordan really means. Michael, good to connect with you on the National Pulse. Hi.
And so nice to hear from you again. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's been a long time, but there we are, right? So firstly, South Africa, the most difficult place in the world to do business with. You saw that and you reacted. What was your immediate reaction? Like, no?
You know, I think often all of us respond to headlines and don't go to the effort of critically reading the article. I think this was a very bad headline, because that's actually not what the report said. We're not the most difficult in the world. What the report actually said is, of the 49 countries surveyed, we were the lowest. But now, of course, you can choose which those 49 countries are. And for example, there wasn't another one in Africa. So it's not the toughest in the world. And by the way, starting a business is tough everywhere. Business failure is something that happens with businesses all over the world. Having said all of that, I do think we're making it harder for ourselves than it need to be in South Africa. And there certainly would be ways that we could grow the economy faster, create more jobs, and that you're not going to do that if you don't make it easier for businesses, because they are the main creators of jobs.
Yeah. So, okay, so we number 49 of the countries that were measured. Let's get that right. But we probably are number one in Africa, based upon that index, right? But this issue about, maybe ease of doing business, which I think has come through. Do you find in your experience, both, as a banker before and as a venture capitalist now, looking at, encouraging entrepreneurship, that is a major stumbling block?
Yeah, doing business in South Africa is hard. What came through in the survey, so this is, asking lots of businesses, not me, are things like labor laws, which I find very restrictive, and also the general administration, the administrative requirements, and the regulatory burden. Those are the things that were particularly mentioned in the case of South Africa. In a broader perspective, it's tough to do business when the economy isn't growing. We're growing the business, the economy in excess of about 1%, which is also the rate of population growth in South Africa. So on a per capita basis, we are not growing any richer. And in that type of slow growth environment, it's tough to do business. The world growth average is 3%. This is what average countries in the world do. And emerging markets, including many in Africa and in the Middle East and in Southeast Asia, are growing at much higher rates. 4, 5, and higher rates. And all of those things are possible in South Africa too. We have the inherent talent, capability, resources to grow at 5%. So I think that would be the toughest thing in South Africa, is not just the compliance and the regulatory burden. We need the macro conditions to boom. If they do, I can see a very rosy future ahead. But it's important to understand that it's tough for businesses, and that they're actually our friend. They are a very positive force in South Africa, and we need to do whatever we can to make it easier for
Absolutely.
businesses.
So what would you change? You speak about a boom. I would think the boom will be what we hope to happen, right? But at this point in time, dealing with the cards we have right now, what would you change?
Well, can I categorize that in two things? I think the one is the broader infrastructural things, the things where we do depend on government to help us. Now, those are things I'm unable to influence on my own. And therefore, the second category will be, what can entrepreneurs in South Africa do? So the first one, we've got to fix power. We've got to have power that is on all the time and that is not too expensive. There was a time in South Africa when we had some of the cheapest power in the world. Now it's become very expensive and you can't rely on it. We've got to fix water. Water's going to become a problem. We have to fix our roads and the potholes. We have to get tough on crime and corruption. We have to relook all regulations which actually don't suggest confidence in the economy or the business sector. I'm thinking of things like exchange controls. So all of those things will create a better macro business environment. On the micro side, I can proudly say I'm trying to do my bit with startups. You mentioned it at the beginning.
Yeah.
We're trying to make it easier for businesses to bank and make bank fees free. That's what Bank Zero does. We're trying to make 5G data less expensive and more acceptable through rain. We're trying to give power to people when the sun shines through bright black, which makes it cheaper for businesses to have power when they use it during the daytime. So all of these problems are also opportunities for businesses, and that would be my positive message out there is, yes, while it's tough, don't just point fingers. There are solutions out there that can make your business more efficient and make it easier for you to be profitable.
And now, we're facing this, maybe not be strictly business, but it does affect entities. The issues of, certainly the issue of AGOA's business, right? That one, and then the issues of the grants being withdrawn, not just for South Africa, but from around the world in terms of UNAIDS, right? That makes it even more difficult. But as someone who's a business person and entrepreneur yourself, do you see opportunity in that adversity?
There always are, because they create problems. And if you can solve a problem in a way that somebody's willing to pay for it, then you've got a sustainable business. So that's the way to look at South Africa, is we really don't have a shortage of problems, but we do have entrepreneurs. We do have people who can make a plan. And if you have that type of positive mindset, I just think the businesses in South Africa need to be freed up to be able to do those type of things. For a long time, it wasn't even possible to generate your own power. But now that you can do it with solar, for example, so much power has been generated by the private sector, which is not only cheaper, but they've made themselves independent from the vagaries of Eskom. Now, that's one example in the electric world. We need to be freed when it comes to things like ports and railways too. So sometimes, government can make it easier for us by just getting out of the way and let entrepreneurs do what they do better.
Interesting. And linked to that is the localese lack of a buy local push from proudly South Africa. What do you make of it, and do you think it's actually worked, considering it's been around for a long time, that message and that narrative?
So I'm a proud South African, and where I can, I do prefer to support not only South African products, but actually local South African products. It's better to buy from kind of the local small business person sometimes than to buy it from the large store, and it's better to buy it if it's South African rather than remote. At the same time, though, we just have to be realistic about certain things. I think making high-tech chips, for example, I just don't know whether we're going to do that in South Africa, or high-end smartphones. So we also need to focus on those things where we have a competitive advantage in the world. Fortunately, there are many. I think of tourism. South Africans are naturally positive and friendly people, authentically friendly people. You don't get that everywhere in the world. We have wonderful weather, wonderful scenery, wonderful infrastructure, from our airports to private sector things that can help, like Ubers and Bookings.com, etc. So tourism is something where we could actually excel in terms of supporting local industries. We are a very well-endowed country in terms of minerals, so mining plays a role. Agriculture, we could be the breadbasket of the world. I think what we need there is more infrastructural investment, dams and canals and transport, again, to the ports. So there are many ways in which one can be proudly South African, which is not just to support those few products, which sometimes could be more expensive or where we don't have a competitive
Because
advantage. So basically using an older
carry on.
argument to focus on the things you're good at.
Okay, I've often argued, even with the Proudly South Africa team, that it's fine to say, buy local, but we also must emphasize the importance of building local but selling global. That means the drive to create competitive advantages that you speak about, but to a global audience. I mean, how far down the line are we on that?
Well, I think all three of those examples I mentioned rely on that. So tourism, that's another form of exports, right? You have people coming to your country and spending their money there. Mining, most of those minerals are exported, and you could do the same with agriculture. In fact, I would come up for the whole continent here, is the one thing Africa could do really, really well is farm. And some of the protective regulations that you get in continents like Europe for stymie that type of benefit that we could do. So there's a lot to be done also in trade policies that would make it easier. I do worry about AGOA and what America's going to do, because we've had duty-free access to America. I think the sector there that is likely to be hurt the most is actually the automotive manufacturing industry in South Africa, because they've been exporting a lot to America. So there are worries indeed, but if you're an entrepreneur, you need to bounce and land on your feet. And I do think we will, if we have that problem-solving mindset.
Absolutely. Talking about bounce, let's get a call. Solly wants to actually add to the conversation, wants to compliment you. Solly, hello. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Ashraf. Thank you. And how are you, Michael? On 2007, you presented me the Business of the Year. I don't know if you remember.
Yes,
Businessman
that was
of the
some
Year.
time ago. I'm an older man now, but I do remember.
But still, you younger than me. Ashraf, you got a genius here. Michael is not an ordinary person. He's a genius.
I do know that, by the way.
So
Yes.
many companies with rain and everything.
No, you're
and
very
he's
kind, but I'm just an
100% correct.
ordinary person. I really am.
Yeah, but
I just can't help being
you are a
positive.
humble, ordinary person. But when it comes to business, you're a genius. Ashraf, you must bear in mind, you know what Anton Rupert once told me, it's easier to make 10 rand than $1. We live in a great country. We must be proud of it, and we must be proud that we got the Michael Jordans of the world. You know, when the Afrikaners and the DA went to America propagating all the lies, they didn't realize that when this thing backfires, it will hurt them the most, the automotive, the agriculture, all that. Now the chickens are coming home to roost, so we must be very careful what we do. You know, we live in a great country.
Okay, solid point made. I need to, Nash. Michael, just final comment on that. Thanks for that call, Solly. Michael?
No, I do think we as South Africans have a way of pulling together when we perceive an external threat. The incident I'm thinking of is somewhat funny. It was in the World Cup when one of our players was accused of using what could have been a racial expletive.
Yes.
They thought that would tear South Africa apart, but they didn't. So, yes, we need to pull together. But at the same time, that does leave reason. You always need to have leave this gap for constructive criticism. I'm very positive about our country and our people and what we can achieve, but I do think there are many things that we could do much better in the country, and we need to have both those discussions.
Good point. Well, I'll tell you what, love to have a longer chat with you, maybe on that fireside chat we have on a Friday for about 45, 50 minutes. But I mean, for now, maybe to pick up the rugby analogy, you're spot on. Whatever our differences, we must understand stronger together does actually work. It's a practical manifestation of putting a team together. So, Michael, appreciate your time and your input on the show today. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for listening.
There we are, Michael. There we are. Lots to consider from that. Michael Jordan, now the CEO of Montague Capital, former CEO of FNB, and involved in RAIN and a whole lot more in terms of startups that he does, and does pretty well indeed. This is the National Pulse.
In times like these, everyone is looking to save wherever they can. But you don't have to be a detective to know that with Outsurance, you could be saving big on your car insurance. Hear it from real Outsurance client Marius.
The great big saving that I've got, 765 Rand, 27% a month on my premium. It's so quick and easy to swap over. I am part of the Outsurance family.
It's a no-brainer. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. Saving on car insurance makes you feel like a winner. And the best part is, if Outsurance can't beat your car insurance premium, ask them for 500 Rand cash. And make that 1,500 Rand cash if you've been claim-free and with the same insurer for 3 years. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. With Outsurance, you always get something out. A licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
Something big is coming. 6:30 will never be the same. Amalanga Wafani, only on SABC 1. Turn your vision into reality with Vodacom Business. Get the Samsung Galaxy S25 on a Red Business 1.7 gig contract for 1,129 Rand per month over 24 months. Enhance your deal. Add 69 Rand extra per month over 24 months and get the Samsung Galaxy Watch 7 eSIM. Available in-store and online. T's and C's apply. Further together. Vodacom Business.
Right, 5 rands can't buy you a pie in a cold week anymore. Okay, you do know that, right? So what can it do? Well, think about that. But in the meantime, Outsurance is still committed to saving you big bucks on your car insurance. Get a quote, and if Outsurance can't beat your car insurance premium, ask them for 500 rands in cash. And you can make that 1,500 bucks if you've been claim-free and with the same insurer for 3 years. Get monthly savings on your car insurance or cash in your pocket. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. With Outsurance, you always get something out. A licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
Who says talking never solves anything? SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. Ashraf Garda on SAFM.
Right, let's get your calls, let's get your WhatsApp messages, and you can text us or you can send a voice note. If you're sending a voice note, please ensure it's not more than 30 seconds. We have huge difficulty doing that more than 30 seconds, okay? Right, let's get your calls. Eunice in Joburg, hello.
Yeah, Ashraf, hi there. Ashraf, I just want to respond to Colin, who you had yesterday. I really think you let him off the hook. He said a very nasty comment yesterday. He was responding to Freddie, the truck driver, right? And Colin said that Freddie is a truck driver, and no wonder he's a truck driver. He's got very little between his earlobes. Now, that is the height of racism as far as I'm concerned. So what is he trying to say? That because the guy is a truck driver, he's got no brains, so to say?
Well, I actually interjected. If you listen correctly, I said, I mean, Colin, you can't say things like that. You know, it doesn't matter what his level of education is. That's the point, right? But he was saying Freddie's accusing him of racism. I mean, you know, I take your point. I think, you know, if people think he was racist, they can take it to the Human Rights Commission. On the other hand, I get a sense that there's a to and fro between all of them, and I really don't think. I mean, you can give your point further, but beyond that, like, we need to move on with the story, isn't it?
But the fact of the matter is, if Colin himself was talking about America, most of the truck drivers in America are who? Happen to be white. Most of the lumberjacks in America happen to be white. So if we're going to go by that analogy, then what is he trying to say?
Well, I agree with you.
The fact is, a person could be a truck driver, but he could have very good moral standings. He could be a very good family man. He could be a very religious person. He could be a very God-conscious person, or whatever the case. He could be morally upright. Just to demean a person because he's a truck driver, I personally took great offense to that.
Well, I mean, I certainly found that wrong as well. We're going to move on. I mean, I must say this, Eunice, and I'll say that on the air because I've told this to Colin as well. Colin does make sweeping statements often, okay? And they're unable to justify those comments often that he does that. Okay, let's move on to some of your thoughts on the issues that we've covered. Let's pick up that issue of SAFA.
Afternoon, Ashraf. Someone from Tate. Please get someone from SAFA or a former referee that can explain this. I'm going to debug the yellow cards because they are different interpretation of that rule. Can someone clarify this rule for us? Because now we don't know what's happening. Really, we are down.
Well, I did say I'm sick, and you understand why I'm sick. Well, look, I mean, Zai's years is going to come in now. Hopefully she'll know more, because she said it's a developing story. I mean, my simple thing is, someone who loves football, if you've got a yellow card and it's not overturned after, in terms of an appeal, it's a yellow card. And if you've got 2 yellow cards and the rule says you need to be suspended, that's the end of the discussion. It doesn't matter what you and I think about it. That's really what it is, okay? Doesn't sound good at all, I can tell you.
Yeah, Ashraf, it is patently clear that Ramaphosa has been sleeping all along when he is saying that it's a wake-up call on South Africa in regard to what United States of America is doing to South Africa. In other words, he's been sleeping all along. We've not been sleeping. We've been seeing these things from time immemorial that America is bully. So shame on him to wake up now.
I don't know about the bully part. I think the biggest wake-up call is South Africa's dependence on funding from the USA, and not just South Africa, so many countries in the world. So you may not agree with their politics, but you can't deny the fact that we've been so dependent. I mean, $400 million US in terms of funding just on the issue of HIV and TB research, not any other thing. That shows you that we're completely dependent on them, and that is the wake-up call that we need to understand.
The Minister of Finance wants us to believe when he says there is no money in South Africa. I say no, there's a lot of money in South Africa. There are funds that are spent unnecessarily here. The Premier of Gauteng has just told us he wanted to introduce the Mandarin language here. Office does a tender for the Chinese teacher and also the Swahili. For example, the Minister of Finance, in his budget, he also has the money to fund that ICJ court that is happening there in Hague. Thanks, Ashraf.
Okay, do we really have the money, or do we genuinely have no money? Either way.
Afternoon, Ashraf. It's Yandisa in Tembisa. I think the intentions of Netanyahu and Donald Trump now is to kill all the people in Gaza so that they can take Gaza without negotiating or speaking with anyone, because all the people there will be dead, so there will be no one they will negotiate with about taking Gaza. They want to kill everyone there now.
Well, I don't know. Okay, I hear you. I must say, on the one hand it's complex, but on the other it's not complex, which I heard many people of real authority in law saying, how can this issue be allowed to continue? No matter what had happened on October 7th, how can it be that 50,000 people can be wiped off the face of the earth? Another journalist, the 200th one, was killed yesterday. Just a final point here is that thank you for the great show. I'm loving it. Very informative, robust, and educational too. Butana here from Kwatema in Springs. Actually, this is my 3rd day I'm listening to SFM. Thought this was not for me. Silly me. Well, I did say, Butana, if you're listening for the first time, I need to know. So 3rd day is the first time. I really appreciate you tuning in and giving us that shout out. And let's give you the shout out. And all I can tell you is now, Butana, you better stay connected to the National Pulse, or else. That's good news. It's 4 o'clock. Here's the nail.
Thank you, Ashraf. Top stories. Home Affairs introduces digital system to fight corruption, and former football chiefs cleared in corruption case. A very good afternoon. Home Affairs Minister Leon Schreiber says a digitized system will strengthen efforts to combat fraud and corruption at South Africa's borders. Schreiber and Special Investigating Unit Head Advocate Endi Mothibi launched the Border Management and Immigration Anti-Corruption Forum in Pretoria today. The initiative aims to curb corruption through collaboration with stakeholders. Schreiber says automating entry and exit at all points will close the gaps that allow for illegal activities.
We are also automating entry and exit at all of South Africa's ports of entry. This is a major reform. The medium-term development plan explicitly aims to achieve this first at the 9 international airports and then at all land and seaports by the end of this administration. These reforms will deliver a systems revolution in border management and the immigration environment. No more papers that can go missing or be manipulated. No more photo swapping on a green ID book. No more bribing an immigration officer to manipulate an outcome or to gain entry to our country illegally, because you simply cannot bribe a computer.
President Cyril Ramaphosa says the cutting of US aid to South Africa has been a wake-up call. The president was speaking at the first day of Nursing Union DENOSA's 9th National Congress on Gauteng's East Rand. A key discussion of the meeting is the aftermath of the cutting of the HIV and AIDS funding by the US. Speaking on the sidelines of the Congress, Ramaphosa highlighted the need for South Africa to become more self-reliant.
In many ways, it's a wake-up call on our part as South Africans that we've got to find ways of being self-reliant, of relying on our own resources, and that is what our people expect, even within our fiscal constraints and challenges. So this is a matter that we are discussing, and our sovereignty is important, and our sovereignty as a country should also mean that we must find ways all the time to look after the welfare of South Africans.
Moving to KZN, the MEC for Finance, Francois Rogers, says the province received an increase in its conditional grant allocation from national government of 2.6 billion rand. Rogers was delivering the 2025-26 provincial budget of 158.8 billion rands in the legislature in Pietermaritzburg today. Rogers says the National School Nutrition Program and Early Childhood Development will receive funding from this grant.
The National School Nutrition Program grant receives an increase of 33.3 million in the 25-26 year, resulting in a budget of 2.3 billion rand. It is noted that this grant showed spending pressures in the current year, and the allocation will assist in addressing these shortfalls. The Early Childhood Development grant receives an increase of 17.4 million to support the infrastructure component of this grant.
On to some court news now. 2 suspects arrested in connection with the murder of 6 people at Merrimee Informal Settlement in Soshanguve are expected to appear before the Pretoria North Magistrates Court tomorrow. The suspects were arrested yesterday. 4 of the victims remain in hospital, while 2 have since been discharged. Hawk spokesperson Christopher Singo says the suspects face charges of murder, attempted murder, possession of unlicensed firearms and ammunition.
On 24 March 2025, information was received. The police followed up on the information and traced the first suspect to Soshanguve Extension 20. Upon arrival, police recovered 1 firearm, 9mm Gisan with ammunition and serial numbers filed off. The police proceed to the second address in Soshanguve Extension 6, where the second suspect was arrested. During the arrest, the suspect was found in possession of 9mm CZ with ammunition and its serial number also filed off.
Lastly, the 2 men, once considered the most powerful in the world of football, have again been acquitted by a Swiss court in a fraud case that ended their careers a decade ago. The case relates to a payment of more than $2 million that Sepp Blatter authorized to Michel Platini at the time Blatter was the head of FIFA. The BBC's Imogen Folkers has the details.
Despite the best efforts of the Swiss Attorney General, 2 courts now, a first initial acquittal, now an acquittal on appeal, really say there's not enough evidence to prove that this payment was corrupt. I think there's no real denial that payments went on, but what FIFA and Sepp Blatter and Michel Platini always maintained was that this was for legitimate consultancy. And the whole scandal started a good 10 years ago, 2015.
Recapping the top story, the SAWA Home Affairs Minister Leon Schreiber says a digitized system will strengthen efforts to combat fraud and corruption at South Africa's borders. For SFM News, I'm Dinomo Taung. Headlines at 4:30.
A very good afternoon to you. In your SFM sports headlines, Bafana Bafana's bid to qualify for the 2026 FIFA World Cup has potentially been thrown into disarray. We'll bring you an update on that, as well as we get the latest from Prudence Sekgodiso. She's landed on home soil, surprised by her indoor championship gold medal. All this and more at around 4:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 southbound in Sandton is slow moving towards Marlborough Drive. The M1 southbound in Midrand has a crash reported at Buccleuch Interchange. All lanes are open. In KZN, Old North Coast Road is closed just north of Columbine Place, and Bluff Road is closed between Voortrekker Street and Dune Road due to waterworks. In Cape Town, the M5 southbound slow moving towards Krumbum Road exit, the M3 southbound is slow moving towards Rhodes Drive, and the R300 westbound queuing towards the M7 Jakes Gerwel Drive. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
Here, there, and everywhere. SAFM 105.7 FM in Cape Town. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
So we've spoken about so many things already on the show, but I'll tell you what, my mind at the moment is very much on Bafana Bafana. I know they're playing at 6 o'clock, right, tonight. So what's your one word to describe the news that they could be docked 3 points for fielding a player who was ineligible? I already made the point to Zai. I'm feeling sick. What's your one word? Just let me know. You can, in fact, you can also tweet it out on the WhatsApp. Just tag us, SFM Radio, on Twitter, on the X platform, and then tag me, Ashraf Garda. But also, if you're going to WhatsApp, text or voice note, just your one word. And at WhatsApp number 0614 104 107 to call in live, not quite now, just now, 086 000 2032. Do comment on that Black Forum challenge to the Public Works Minister about the appointment of 5 new board members. They deem it irregular. That conversation we had about the DRC and the peace talks and the 5, leading luminaries of Africa, including some former ministers or presidents of their countries as well. And the chat then with Michael Jordan, of former CEO of FNB, about the fact that South Africa, the worst country, the most difficult to deal with, not quite in business, when he explained how he interpreted all of that. Well, what about, even Michael Jordan made the point about energy is a big deal in terms of being a deliberating factor in terms of South Africans doing business, right? So let's talk about energy, or the lack thereof, right, with Chris Yelland, who's an energy expert. Chris, good talking to you once again. Hi.
Hi, good morning or good afternoon to you and your listeners.
Well, you say the lights are off, and it could well be still early morning because we're waiting for the sun to rise, and I don't know. So help us understand the euphoria of a celebration from Eskom days ago to say 8,000 megawatts now added to the grid from Kusile Unit 6, and then last night, paranoia, panic, where my wife tells me, Ashraf, go and charge all your devices now. Load shedding is imminent. Help us understand, how do we move from a goal to a non-goal in the space of one day?
Yeah. Look, I think the first thing to note is that we should not be celebrating too soon. What happened, and the announcement yesterday was that Kusile Unit number 6 has been synchronized to the grid. You know, the synchronization to the grid, first synchronization they call it, is an important milestone, but it doesn't mean to say that unit is delivering 24-hour stable power. In fact, it takes approximately 6 months from the time of first synchronizing to the grid to the time that unit is handed over to Eskom for production purposes, what we call commercial operation. And so synchronization is the start of a 6-month commissioning period, during which time, the unit is synchronized at no load, no output from that generator.
Okay.
And then it is slowly ramped up over the next weeks until a problem occurs, when they then shut it down and they have to fix the problem, they have to start again, try and bring it up to full load. And this is a long and laborious process. So the fact that it has been synchronized to the grid doesn't mean to say it's delivering
I understand. For those who didn't read beyond the first, those that didn't read beyond the first few lines, I mean, they will certainly not have got that. So I think thanks for clearing that up, right? It could take a 6-month process. But having said that, it is significant, isn't it, that 8,000 megawatts now will be added to the grid?
Yeah, look, first of all, it's not 8,000 megawatts, it's 800 megawatts.
Sorry, 800, I'm being very ambitious here.
800 megawatts, and even that, remember, is not delivering 800 megawatts to the grid. It has got a rating of 800 megawatts, but right now, it's probably delivering almost no power to the grid because of the commissioning phase. And even when it's delivering at full power, it's not delivering 850 megawatts into the grid, it's delivering 720 megawatts in the grid because about 80 megawatts is used to power the internal power station. In other words, pumps and fans and conveyors and mills, all kinds of equipment. And the net amount that gets put into the grid for our use, for the customer's use, is about 720 megawatts.
Okay, I understand that. So, but when it's up and running in 6 months' time, right, 800 or 750, right, how much of a game changer is that for a country that, as you know, has been battling with load shedding for a decade and more?
Yeah. Well, look, just to give you an idea, the town of Randburg in Johannesburg, which is like a suburb of Johannesburg, part of Johannesburg, it's quite a big part of it. It draws about 400 megawatts. So that generator can supply 2 towns the size of Randburg. Look, it's not insignificant at all, but in the scheme of things, it's less than 1 stage of load shedding. But nevertheless, an extra generator of 800 megawatts or 720 megawatts into the grid is going to be very helpful. The problem, of course, is this unit should have been on the grid 10 years ago.
Yeah.
It is running 10 years late. Okay, better late than never. But, in that period of 10 years, we've had very serious load shedding. And this unit would have saved, well, not quite a 1 stage of load shedding, but nearly a stage of load shedding. The cost to the economy of not having this unit running for 10 years is staggering. This power plant, because of its long delivery time and the costs and time overruns, is probably the most expensive coal-fired power station ever built in the history of humankind. It is a very poor state of affairs when a power plant size of Kusile, that is 6 times 800 megawatts, 4,800 megawatts, is running 10 years late. That costs the country dearly.
Okay.
Nevertheless, it is important to get this unit online. We must be thankful. It's going to be helpful.
Because, and here's a thought in terms of your assessment of where Eskom is now. I mean, we've got a fairly new chairperson, we've got a fairly new CEO in terms of what happened before. So what happened before over 10 years is another whole conversation. But can we give this current Eskom leadership degrees of credit? There'll be potholes as we experience, and we have experienced in the last few weeks. But overall, the trajectory is upward and a lot more positive and slanted to service delivery than no service delivery compared to before.
Yeah, look, we get upset when there's load shedding over the last month, but it's a hell of a lot better than it was in 2023, a hell of a lot better. So we should be thankful for that. And, we need to thank everybody from the President of South Africa who came up with an emergency plan to end load shedding, through to the new Minister of Electricity, through to the new head of Eskom Generation, the new chairman of Eskom, the new CEO of Eskom, and the entire team and the people down on the ground at Eskom. There has been an improvement. It's not where it should be.
All right. And it's good to acknowledge that, right? Just lastly, then last night we had this warning that, thank goodness, didn't materialize. What did you make of that?
Yeah, look, there was a whole lot of units that tripped out. It is very surprising that so many should trip out in such short succession. But there is a certain amount of spare excess generation capacity at the moment because of the better performance of the Eskom plant. And so it didn't push us into load shedding, but it did cause Eskom a few grey hairs, and they issued a warning that, to please, they could declare load shedding at short notice. The point is, these are old units. They have been badly treated in the past and not maintained properly. and one can expect this sort of thing now and again. By coincidence, a number of units trip out simultaneously and push us into a state where we're not comfortable anymore. But fortunately, they did avoid the load shedding, and I'm thankful for that.
And so am I, absolutely. But that's we're going to leave it. Until next time, Chris Yellen, an energy expert, talks about things Eskom. Much appreciate your time. Right, your thoughts on. Thank you so much. Right, let's get comment from you on the Eskom issue. On the 800, did I say 8,000 earlier? 800 megawatts. But also the warning last night that we could have a switch off imminent, which didn't quite happen. And how do you cope with the ebbs and flows on a very personal level? We know there's panic at home. We know we get a notice of load shedding. It's like absolute panic. Do this, do that. Make sure your phones are charged. Check this, check that out. And do you have the same experience about that? Certainly love to know from you on a very personal level. What's your energy plan, adaptability plan, when you find that load shedding is imminent, right? Okay, let's get to some of your comments, and one of them is the issue that we got touched on about no money, right?
Hi, Ashraf. This is Jordan from Katlehong. Ashraf, I'm quite confused when it comes to how the budget process works in South Africa. Maybe I need to school myself a little bit more, because now they're saying since the DA, the EFF, as well as the Action SA are against the 0.5 VAT percentage hike, so now this means that the budget won't be passed. Like, how does this work? I don't really understand this government of national unity. Well, it's more like government of non-unity.
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, I think maybe we need to have a explainer about how the budget works. But in simple terms, really speaking, it's no different to what you have in your home. You earn 10,000 rands, and your expenditure is 11,000. You're going to have to get 1,000 from somewhere else. And sometimes government does it; they borrow money, and it comes at a cost. And sometimes they find different ways to tax different people. Now, unlike you can't tax someone. Perhaps your version of tax is to tell your supplier that buys goods from you, rather, can I charge you more? That's really what it is, and that's what the VAT is, because we are the big supplier when it comes to taxes, because we pay the taxes as the public. Does that make sense? Like simple stuff there. Ben in Garankuwa. Hello, Ben.
Hello, how are you?
Yeah, good indeed. Go for it, Ben.
Good. Ashraf, I hope you are well.
I am, yeah.
Good. I want to talk a little bit on Eskom.
Okay, go for it.
About Chris Yellen.
Yeah.
You guys are parading him as energy expert, but you have never told us his qualification. What is his qualifications? I mean, his analysis and his input is biased. He says these facilities were better maintained in the past. Which past? Because, I mean, the energy experts in my view are people like Marcella Coco, and it has never been disputed that during that age, Marcella Coco maintained the Eskom fleet more than what the chief executive from NAMPEC
Okay. All right. I think your point is well taken. I mean, point made. Fine, I get that. Right. Okay. Anything else you want to add to that, Ben? No,
that was my input.
Okay. All right. Fine. Good point. How expert is the expert, right? Right. Let's get further comments from you. Here we are.
Hi. Good afternoon to you, Ashraf. It's Scully. Your guest, Michael Jordan. He said it all. He knows it. He knows it to the core. Where we are in our country. How rich we are, what we can do, and what we don't have to do. Thank you, Ashraf, for bringing him.
All right, I'm glad you enjoyed that. That podcast will be up. I think it's up already. Go to safm.coza. Listen to the podcast of Michael Jordan in his analysis of South Africa's ease of doing business or lack thereof.
Hi, Ashraf. My name is Leslie Ma. To make it short, why are we supporting the Palestine more than to support the USA? The USA have got many companies here in South Africa that create jobs, economy, and make our diplomatic relations very good. So what is the reason for us to support the Palestine as if we are default supporters of the ANC? Because South Africa is not ANC.
Well, I mean, it's a conundrum. I think South Africa's taken up a position which they say there's something as bad as apartheid happening in South Africa. Wouldn't we be happy if someone prevents it by global activism? And that's been South Africa's position as a country and as a government up to now. Now, you may agree or not agree with that. I don't think they've ever not supported the USA. It's the USA who said, if you support them, we don't like you. That's really what it means, isn't it? Okay, let's talk about other things. There's some huge developments going on regarding border controls, which we'll talk about next.
This Human Rights Month, SAFM is deepening a culture of social justice and human rights. It's a time to reflect, engage, and take action for a more just society. From thought-provoking discussions to powerful stories, SAFM is leading the conversations that move us. Because your voice matters, your rights matter, and together we shape a better future. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. Is there ever a bad time for a good conversation? SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. You're listening to the National Pulse.
So we've had one listener listening for the very first time to the show. If you are another one listening for the very first time to the National Pulse, then at least I want to know about it so I can actually applaud you. So let me know, okay? You can send us a WhatsApp, which is probably the best way, or to call in if you get a chance, okay? Right, let's talk about another important development. The Department of Home Affairs, in collaboration with the Special Investigative Unit, the SIU, launched the Border Management and Immigration Anti-Corruption Forum. Now, we joined on the line by Kaiser Kganyago, who's the spokesperson for the SIU, and then we'll pick up on some of the thoughts that was made by the Minister of Home Affairs just now. So, Kaiser, first of all, good to connect with you on the National Pulse. Hello.
Hello, how are you? And good afternoon to your listeners.
Yeah, much appreciate your time. Thanks for that, Kaiser. Let's do this. Let's play, in fact, a clip from the Minister of Home Affairs, this is Dr. Leon Schreiber, and this is what he had to say at the launch.
The Directorate for Priority Crime Investigation and the National Prosecuting Authority are already actively working together to enforce accountability in the border management and immigration environment. In recent months, we have seen some of the most decisive action taken to date against corruption in our country, including through the important work done by the technical experts on the multidisciplinary task team that is tasked with implementing the recommendations contained in Dr. Lubisi's report. As a result, between July 2024 and February 2025, 27 officials have been dismissed from the Department of Home Affairs for a range of offences, including fraud and corruption. We announced 18 of these dismissals in November last year, and since then another 9 officials have been dismissed. Once appeals that are currently ongoing are completed, this number is likely to increase further still. The Department of Home Affairs is also concluding the appointment of a permanently appointed Deputy Director General for Human Resources, and it is my expectation that this person will further intensify our quest to rid the department of these syndicates and the people who serve their interests.
Okay, so that's the voice of the Minister of Home Affairs. So we do have Kaiser Kganyago back on the line with us now. Kaiser, you know, there's not a day that goes by that someone or the other calls in on this show and reflects on the fact that we have undocumented foreign nationals in our country and in large numbers. And they link it very directly to two things. Porous borders, because you can literally cross a fence that's got a hole broken in it. And the other one is the issues of corruption at border control. So therefore, it is in that context. Tell us about the significance of what's been agreed upon today.
Thank you very much once again. What we're doing today is to launch this border management and anti-corruption forum, purely because we saw that as a vulnerable group. It's part of what we do as a SIU is to look at vulnerable groups where corruption can manifest, and then we go there and then we bring civil society into one room with law enforcement, so that we are able to then improve the space for reportage, because people can report either with the civil society people or with the law enforcement agencies, so that we can handle this. And therefore, Border management was one of those that we had to look into because of the impact that it has on the economy of this country. But also, you will remember that last year the president signed the proclamation on, I think it's Proclamation 152 of 2024, where we were tasked as a SIU to look into all the visas that were granted in this country, so that we are able to then see which ones were legal, which ones were illegal, so that those that are illegal are cancelled and those people can now be deported out of this country.
Yeah. How, I mean, do you get a sense that clearly there's huge pressure on government to deliver on this, right? Do you get the sense this will work and work effectively? Because ultimately it still has to be driven by people, right?
No, it will work because the difference that it makes with the anti-corruption forums is that we are taking an approach of the whole of society. And we are saying, when it is law enforcement agencies alone, sometimes you can convince yourself that you are doing well. But if you are sitting in one room and you are monitored by the civil society groups and business and all the other people that have got an interest, therefore we are able to sit in one room once in a month or so and say, these are the reportages we got from civil society. Corruption Watch will say we got the following reportages around the border management, and so will all the other members of these committees. And then we are able to then say in the next meeting, how far are you in this investigation? What is hampering you? Where do you need resources? Business will come, like they said today. They've got the know-how in terms of technology to can bring to the table and so on. Therefore, in that way, there will be progress. But also, the use of technology is very important, as the minister indicated today. Because if we use technology, we are closing a gap for bribes to be made against people.
Yeah. What then is your understanding about the technology? I mean, I know I could speak to him about it, but just in terms of your understanding from an SIU point of view about the technology that will come online.
Yeah, I think all he's trying to say is let us automate the systems so that we move away from the paper-based system, because paper-based system can be altered and so on. But if all the systems are automated and for you to go to the next step, they need to be approval at this step and so on and so on. Therefore, we'll be in a position to not necessarily completely remove the human element, but minimize it. And when we minimize it, we'll be in a position to then minimize corruption.
Yeah. Okay, hopefully when we chat in 6 months or a year's time, we'll find a completely different scenario that we're facing compared to now. So much appreciate your time, Kaiser. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
There we are. That's important. Kaiser Kganyago speaking on behalf of the SIU Special Investigative Unit. But linked to that is the launch today of by the Department of Home Affairs together with the SIU, launching the Border Management and Immigration Anti-Corruption Forum. And linked to that is the drive around this very important issue of technology and what that means, right? I've asked you for your one word. I would think it's about Bafana, isn't it?
Good afternoon, Ashraf. One word to describe Bafana's situation: disappointed. Thank you very much, Peter Mailama Chaba from Letswata.
Disappointed is like a mild word, man. I told you I'm sick.
Ashraf, this is from the non-this Mukwena debacle. There is an interpretation that says a player can be cleared to play in the final matches of the qualifiers. So, but can you get someone to confirm it? Please, my brother, find someone to confirm this. And apparently Sudu has played a player that has a 3 yellow card also.
Okay. Well, I tell you what, okay, yeah, we do need to find someone, because I understand there's laws in different competitions and whether you're playing in a friendly match or an international game and whether yellow cards carry. I don't know enough about it now. I mean, we just hope that there's a way out of it, isn't it? We just absolutely good. It's 3 critical points at stake. I see Naran Singh saying his one word is shattered. Yeah. Right, 4:30, here's the news headlines with Daneo.
Thank you very much, Ashraf. A very good afternoon. Let's take a look at the headlines at 4:30. President Cyril Ramaphosa says nurses will be at the forefront of the NHI's implementation. This comes as the president was speaking at the first day of Nursing Union DENOSA's 9th National Congress in Eastern Johannesburg. In other news, the Modal family at Hamocha village outside Thohoyandou in Limpopo is taking legal action against the Provincial Health Department this after an alleged botched caesarean section on their family member. And the Council of Europe has expressed alarm about Turkish police response to large anti-government protests. A full update follows at the top of the hour with Greg Hoos.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N1 southbound in four ways queuing towards Winnie Mandela Drive exit. In Midrand, the N1 southbound has a stationary vehicle at Buccleuch interchange and the N1 northbound queuing towards New Road. In KZN, the N2 southbound has a stationary vehicle after Umgeni Road, the N3 westbound queuing towards Pavilion Shopping Centre exit and Umgeni Road westbound slow moving through Springfield Park. In Cape Town, the M5 southbound slow moving towards Cromboom Road exit, the M3 southbound is slow moving towards Rhodes Drive, the N2 Nelson Mandela Boulevard outbound queuing towards Hospital Bend, and the N1 outbound slow moving towards the M5 Kuburg interchange. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Right, Zai, I did say I'm sick. Should I remain sick? Tell us what's going on with this Bafana story and the 3 points.
You could say Lesotho dropped the ball. Literally.
Tell us more.
Okay, I'll tell you. Bafana may have narrowly avoided a World Cup disaster. Reports confirm that midfielder Teboho Mokoena was indeed ineligible to play against Lesotho, having received yellow cards in 2 earlier qualifiers. But in a lucky break, Lesotho failed to report the violation within FIFA's 2-hour post-match window or the 24-hour grace period. Now that technicality means SAFA is unlikely to face sanctions, keeping Bafana's 2-0 win intact and their lead at the top of Group C safe. So coach Hugo Broos will be without Mokoena tonight as South Africa face second place Benin in Abidjan, while Nigeria, they are lurking behind. Bafana cannot afford any more of this off the pitch slip.
So I mean, let me. It's okay. He won't play today because now we know he's suspended,
Yes.
right? But you're saying that the 3 points that would normally be docked is based upon a protest from a team. And the team doesn't protest, right? Then it's okay. Now, why would it be left to the team to protest? Because unlike, like when you protest something that's up to dispute, up to debate, that's
Yes.
different. This is clear cut. I'm not there for Lesotho, but I'm just wondering.
I know.
Why would it be? That means I'm just suggesting if even if Lesotho did not protest, by the letter of the law,
Yeah.
that's it.
The fine
I'm
print.
delighted if that's the case. Thank you to our can't even say neighbours. We surround Lesotho on all sides, right? Yeah.
What are you saying?
If that's the case.
Anyway, they are cousins. They've come to the party.
Sure.
It was the FIFA fine print, I think, that fouled, I guess, them because they didn't, put a protest and.
But is this now confirmed? Because you did say they may have narrowly.
Yeah, there's a lot of maze in our, we just for now.
Can someone say up front to say we know it's okay officially?
FIFA's rules and SAFA almost picked up this, this red face. So we're hoping.
But the SAFA guys don't get wages. That's another discussion.
And money talks. But
oh
you know
my
what?
goodness!
Let's hope that tonight's match in Abidjan will be spicy. It's 6 o'clock, the kickoff. We're building up from 5:30 on SABC Sport. Right. Exciting things to look forward to now. Cricket, the Indian Premier League's impact player rule has divided opinion since being introduced in 2023, but Delhi Capital's batter Faf du Plessis says its value was plain to see after his side came back from the dead to beat the Lucknow Super Giants. The rule allows a player to be substituted into the starting 11 at any time, and teams have been using it to great effect, swapping out a bowler for a batter during a run chase and frequently picking up 200 plus totals. Now we saw Delhi, they were looking to be heading for defeat in their season opener, struggling at 65 for 5 while chasing 210. However, in walked their impact player Ashutosh Sharma to turn the game on its head, scoring an unbeaten 66 of 31 balls to take his team past the finish line with a wicket and 3 balls to spare. Athletics, the newly crowned World Indoor Championships, and that's the 800-meter gold medalist, Prudence Sekgodiso, says she did not expect to finish first in China. The 23-year-old made history as the first South African woman to claim an 800-meter indoor medal.
Well, I expected to be just to be in the top 3, but not to grab the gold medal. But I'm glad that I came with the medal. I'm well known, and yeah, people expect more from me every time I step on the track. But you know what? This is a motivation going forward to the world or the championship, and also the Diamond Leagues as well.
Now, the South African 800-meter record holder Khani Simbine insists that his world indoor bronze medal doesn't define his career. When Simbine left South Africa for his debut indoor championship, his aim was to simply compete in 3 rounds of the 60-meter event, the heats, the semi-finals and the final, and see how things unfolded. However, he surpassed his own expectations, securing a podium finish, marking the country's first in 15 years.
It was just processes, man. Like I said, I wanted to the goal was to get into the final because it gives me 3 races to actually work on my first 60 meters, and that was the whole plan, take it round by round, use the 60 and work on certain aspects of the race in the 60 and just not try change so much of things, because the 60-meter indoor makes you change a lot of things in your race, and for me that was the big thing, not to change a lot but make sure that I am executing what we came to execute in round 1, in round 2 and the final.
And finally, Sepp Blatter and Michel Platini won again in court and now lead 2-0 in the trial verdicts against the Swiss federal prosecutors. The former FIFA president and former UEFA president were acquitted for a second time on charges of fraud, forgery, mismanagement and misappropriation of more than $2 million of FIFA money in 2011. Blatter and Platini have consistently denied wrongdoing in a decade-long case that swung on their claims of a verbal agreement to one day settle the money in question. That's your sport. We'll have more top of the hour. I'm Zai Khan.
And that story will continue, because there's always drama around that story, isn't it? The Lesotho one. More sport here in an hour.
SAFM values your views. Be an active citizen.
From the shows that bring us laughter to the moments that inspire us, your SABC TV license makes it all possible. Every license paid supports local stories, top talent, and the programs that unite South Africa. Pay your TV license today. Visit tvlic.co.za or your nearest retail outlet. Your screen, your story. Together, we make it happen.
Equality, human dignity, freedom of movement and residence. Life, everyone has the right to life. Human Rights Month on SAFM.
Business feature proudly sponsored by CFI, a leading trading app now available in South Africa. Download it now. Visit cfi.trade today.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
So here's the story. Whatever may and may not happen about South Africa and Lesotho and this all-important 3 points, the question we need to be asking is who should we be holding accountable for this? I mean, seriously. If we've been pardoned, thank goodness for that, right? But 3 points would be the difference between qualifying for the World Cup and missing out on that World Cup. So who's in charge of that? For example, if I was the groundsman and I'm in charge of cutting the grass and I don't cut the grass properly, then that's my problem. But I'm not in charge of the yellow card story to check the disciplinary record. So who's in charge of that and what do we do about it? Think about that. Let's talk about other numbers now with Makwe Masilela, the Chief Investment Officer at Makwe Fund Managers. Makwe, let's talk about local and global markets in a moment. First up, you've got the Remgro interims, right?
Yes, Ashraf, afternoon to you and to your listeners. The guys have seen a marked improvement when it comes to the portfolio contribution. That is the profits thereof across their all this investment that they have. Profits as headline earnings per share up 38%, and mainly due to increased contributions from the likes of Rainbow Chicken, RCR Foods, Outsurance, and that is due to improved operational performance. And they can return to profitability driven by volume growth and margin recovery, but partly offset offset by lower contributions from the likes of Total Energy South Africa, and the intrinsic net asset value increased by 10.3%, interim dividend up 20%, and traders are happy as the share price is up nicely 4%, and financial markets have been volatile in recent weeks, and that was due to fears on inflation and on economic downturn after Trump announced a series of tariffs last month on major U.S. trading partners. Investors experiencing today a slight sign of relief, but at the same time they are cynical about how long this may last. And locally, even though the chances of our national budget getting approved getting slimmer, the rand continue to be resilient, getting lift from firmer commodity prices since it's a commodity currency, and also from a falling dollar because of tariff uncertainties, and oil prices going up on expectation that global supply might tighten after U.S. announced tariffs on countries that buy oil from Venezuela, although OPEC Plus plans to go ahead with an output hike in May. They had limited gains, and we see Brent crude is up 0.6% at $73 a barrel, and safe haven demand, Ashraf, remains relatively high, even though there's some easing concerns over the severity of planned trade tariffs, and we see the yellow metal is up 0.7% at $3,032, platinum up 2% at $983. In global markets decided to enjoy the sunshine while it lasts, still, but the local pulse is up 0.7%, and our financials do most of the heavy lifting, up 1.5%, and the rand firmed almost 0.4% against the US dollar. It's now 18.16, 23.50 against the pound, and 19.63 against the euro.
Perfect. Thanks for that, Sir Marco. We will connect again tomorrow. And coming up shortly, we'll connect with you with another round of, well, not just calls, but for me to get a sense of what your pulse tells you about the biggest issues in our country and around the world. We'll get thoughts from the President next.
This business feature is sponsored by CFI, an authorized financial services provider, a global leader in online trading now available in South Africa. Visit cfi.trade today.
Hi, I'm Lewis Hamilton. Victory demands everything, but the journey is never solo. My team carves the way, data and innovation are my compass. This is how today's champions are made.
Trade like a champion with CFI. Access over 15,000 instruments, advanced trading tools, 24/7 support, and superior trading services. Visit cfi.trade today. CFI Financial Markets LLC is a Category 1 licensed broker by the UAE Securities and Commodities Authority. Trading involves high risk.
CFI, empower yourself.
Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
Right, so we'll get to your calls shortly, but let's now talk about another issue that is important, and that is the President of South Africa, who's been rather busy with other important issues. In this case here, President Ramaphosa addressed the first day of the DENOSA's 9th annual or National Congress in Boksburg, right? Now, we've picked out some key points from that conference that I think you need to just listen to. Firstly, he spoke about the fact that this is the first time he addresses DENOSA since a significant event 5 years ago.
For inviting me to come and speak to you at your 9th National Congress. This is the first time I've had the occasion to address DENOSA since the outbreak of COVID-19. It was just 5 years ago that we faced the worst global health crisis and emergency in modern times. The pandemic in many ways changed our world almost overnight, and we became used to lockdowns, which many people hated me for as I had to announce them. We became used to wearing masks and social distancing. Many lives were lost to the virus, and the virus shattered many lives and many families and communities. During that pandemic, we lost many nurses and healthcare officials, workers, brave men and women who were at the forefront of the pandemic were lost to us. And brave is not the adequate word or the appropriate word to describe them. Many of you faced the danger of being infected Many of you faced the danger of death, but you still went on to care for those who were affected. And despite the risks to your own health care, you continued to provide treatment, you continue to provide care and support to our people.
And then the President referenced the fact that DENOSA's effectively been in service to the people of the country for, well, 3 decades.
Is to be congratulated for nearly 3 decades of dedication and service to the people of South Africa. I repeat, your union, called DENOSA, is to be congratulated and commended for nearly 3 decades of dedication to the service of our people. Yes, I thought you hadn't heard, that's why. And I thought that some of you may even have forgotten that your union is called DENOSA. We all appreciate the difficult balance that must be struck between advocacy and activism. On the one hand, and fulfilling the rights of patients to treatment and care on the other hand. Now, this balance can be achieved in an environment where the rights of both nurse and patient are respected. At this crucial moment in the history of democratic South Africa, we do call on DENOSA to continue to assert its vanguard role when it comes to health matters.
And then the President touched on this important issue of DENOSA and the NHI.
DENOSA needs to be more engaged in policy development, which you are. DENOSA needs to be more engaged in policy development, which you are, and you must ensure that as new policies emerge, the nursing profession has made inputs and considered the impact of those new policies on their members. The support of DENOSA will be pivotal as we prepare for the National Health Insurance. The passage of the NHI Act was in many ways a milestone in our ongoing quest for a more just society where one's ability to access quality health care and services is not determined by where one comes from or from one's ability to pay. The NHI will bring us closer to our aspiration of being a society where human dignity of all is upheld at all times. The right to dignity matters most when people are sick, when they need help, and that is the time when they are most vulnerable. Our nurses will be the backbone of the national insurance, health insurance. You are going to be the real backbone. When people look at how we're implementing the NHI, the first point of call will be the capability, the ability of our nurses to be able to improve the delivery of healthcare in our country. So you are going to be at the center of it all. And it is you who people are going to look at. We urge DENOSA to be at the forefront of the discussions around skilling and training, around strengthening the healthcare system, and other crucial matters. I'm delighted that at this conference, this Congress of yours, you are going to have time to discuss all matters that are related to healthcare. And
so that's the President. There's other developments. The ANC has put a stop to all conferences of the ANC until the members of the ANC go through political education. We'll talk about that on the other side of 5 o'clock. We'll also then chat to the CEO, the newly appointed CEO of Brand SA, about the Brand SA State of the Nation Brand Report, which is really all about global and local perception of brand South Africa. Significant conversations. But let's talk to you about the issues that you feel are truly important right after this.
The Portfolio Committee on Premier and Finance will embark on public hearings throughout the province on the Northwest Appropriation Bill 2025 on the 26th March 2025 in Ngakamudiri Molema District at Delareyville Municipal Hall in Delray, in Dr. Kenneth Kaunda District at Tihani Community Hall in Tihani, in Dr. Ruth Sokhomotsi Mumbadi District at Bonabona Community Hall in Bonabona, in Bojanala District, Breds White Hall in Breds. All hearings start at 10.
Call us on 086 000 2032.
I see the message from MUK saying, did the player not know that he was on 2 yellow cards going into the match? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe they knew, but maybe they didn't know the rules themselves, because, you know, you are playing in different competitions, from league competitions to cup competitions to, you know, in this case here, World Cup qualifiers. Somebody in authority absolutely has to keep a check on all of that, isn't it? Butana in Rosebank, go for it.
Good afternoon, my brother.
Yeah, good afternoon.
It's so tiring and frustrating to listen to government institutions telling us now they are no longer working in silos.
Yeah.
At the same time, the crime is ravaging us. Why they don't work together from the beginning? Why? It's not groundbreaking, this. They're supposed to work together.
Well, I agree with you.
Criminals are running amok. People have been killed there in Soshanguve.
What's the one thing with government, if you could effect a change yourself, what would you change? Just one thing.
You must deal with crime. Why are they not capable of dealing with crime? Why poor people have to defend themselves against criminals? Yeah, there's a government there. Why can't they do that?
Okay.
Why can't they provide water? Why can't they clean the streets? Why can't they do that? They want partnership in those things. It's so frustrating and irritating to hear them. They have been put on here telling us that they are not working together, they're going to solve crime, or they're going to deal with criminals. Come on, man.
And they don't. Okay, Butana, you clearly are furious. And it's only on the issue of crime, I'm on side with you on this one. Thank you. I mean, here's a question to all of us, right? Why is it? I think crime escalated big time. Not that it didn't happen before, but 1994, after that, it started escalating and getting worse and worse and worse, right? Why is it that this issue of crime has been picked up as a big issue in South Africa in the 1990s, and in 25 years, we've been unable to solve it? Yet during the 2010 World Cup, remember, the crime rate absolutely plummeted because we did everything we could to ensure, with all the policing that we had, to be the safest country in the world. So what is missing? Is there a political will? Is there something missing? If we see crime as an absolute crisis, that we're unable to solve it. Here's a question to all of us. Siobhan in Joburg South, hello.
Hi, Ashraf. I just want to comment in what Chris Yellen's comments regarding the Kusile, or bringing Kusile, one of the units online.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I actually want to congratulate Eskom and the minister in doing that. You know, this issue of saying that it costs the economy a lot. I mean, if I compare that with, say, for an example, the DRC is said to have at least 40 gigawatt worth of potential power at what is referred to as the Grand Inga, and I visited this place. I mean, to develop that type of power stations is probably much, much easier than what we've done with our Kusile and the other power station. But that has not even yet started. The load shedding there is at least 8 hours a minimum a day now. I mean, Zambia probably I'm doing some work, and I've looked into their potential as well. They've got at least what I saw just on hydro, they probably got about no less than 2 gigawatt worth of hydro potential. That they've not even started working on that.
Okay.
They've got at least 10 hours of load shedding as I'm talking to you now. So I think what Eskom and the board and the government have done needs to be, yes, slow, but I think to say that has cost us whatever he's actually put as numbers, I honestly think we need to look at it maybe differently.
Well, I think we did. That is why I told him, I said, but that's a different conversation. We have a completely new management team now, from the chairman to the CEO to everybody there. So whatever happened before and however much it cost us then, we have to look at the present tense in terms of measuring this Eskom and this Eskom leadership. There's hiccups, but there are definitely changes. I mean, we know that. There's no question about that. So I concur with you. Thanks for that, Shavani, right? Sonke in Durban, go for it.
Hi, Ashraf. I just want to speak about the replacement of the U.S. ambassador.
Yeah.
The name that I would suggest is Mwele Tsimbeki.
Mwele Tsimbeki, yeah.
Yeah, I was listening to him on WS podcast, and the man has got very bright ideas. He's a very intelligent economist.
But here's the problem, I mean, of course, I've had the privilege of interviewing him many times, right? That the ambassador has to reflect the policy of government. So with Ibrahim Rasool, for example, by and large, on the issue of the USA and we will not be bullied and Israel and ICJ, he reflects the position of this current government. Now, Mwele Tsimbeki speaks on his own. That's the big issue.
No, I think we should drop that. Not that it's not that what you said is not true. It is true. But we should downplay it. The ambassador to the US must downplay it, because the role of the US is very important. We need the US as our trading partner.
Okay, point taken.
It's making a very significant role to the economy of South Africa.
Point taken. Mwele Tsimbeki for ambassador. Last week when I did it, it was more on the humorous side. We had people saying Kali Kriel for ambassador, to Julius Malema for ambassador. Who else did I miss out? That was last week's story. Hopefully we matured up this week. So who would you go for the ambassadorial pick to the USA, right? Let's get to other issues, the issue we touched on about Home Affairs.
Azra, good afternoon. This is Patrick from Soweto. Azra, I think the Minister of Home Affairs, Dr. Leon, I think he did the right thing. Let's support him. He fight corruption, he get rid of those corrupt officials. So let's give a big applause. Really, he deserves it. Yeah, really, it's so creative, it's so innovative. So let's support it. Thanks, the Minister of Home Affairs, Mr. Dr. Leon.
Okay, there we are. Here's another story on Home Affairs.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Good afternoon to your team. Great show always. It's good what the Minister of Home Affairs is saying, but Ashraf, remember, Minister of Home Affairs is quiet. Mochorodi was better. We once heard him about Chadima, now it's about border management. Because cars are being transported to Zimbabwe using the boats. Now they want to come with the technology. Where are the permits for said EPs? They paid a lot of money. And his quiet is not even coming on media briefing and they update them. They want to know November is coming. It's Uncle George, the truck driver.
Thanks, Uncle George. My sense, and I stand to be corrected from what I can pick up from other political commentators, that one of the most effective departments of the GNU has been the Ministry of Home Affairs. And it's not so much about coming on air and talking about it. I'd love him to talk. We have spoken to him before. But it's about actually implementing an action plan that works. And he seems to be doing so, his department, quicker than most. That's quite remarkable. Remarkable is the Bafana story as well, and it certainly has captured the imagination.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Bafana, a team manager, is the one who must take responsibility for Deborah Mukwena's debacle. It's the team manager who must know all the players who are suspended. We have 2 yellow card, 1 yellow card or red card. The team manager must take full responsibility. So this is Nolan Mafefe Limpopo.
So just to confirm, when you say manager, you mean coach or manager? Because, for some countries the manager is the coach and other countries is... So you're talking about administrative manager, right? So if you're talking about administrative manager, well, I would agree with you. That person who's in charge of ensuring who's eligible and not has to give a red light in this case here on the player not being allowed to play for an upcoming game. In fact,
on the issue of Bafana,
they will make it. Bafana will make it. We believe on them. They will make it.
Well, there we are. Who am I to argue with you? If you say they're going to make it, then that's it. Discussion's over. Let's get the news. It's 5 o'clock. Here's Greg House.
Thank you, Ashraf. Nurses to lead NHI and concern over protests in Turkey. Good afternoon. President Cyril Ramaphosa says nurses will be at the forefront of the NHI's implementation. He was speaking on the first day of Nursing Union Denosa's National Congress in Johannesburg. The meeting will discuss key topics related to the implementation of the NHI, under which nurses work, and salaries, amongst others. Ramaphosa says nurses are the backbone of NHI.
When people look at how we're implementing the NHI, the first point of call will be the capability, the ability of our nurses to be able to improve the delivery of healthcare in our country. So you are going to be at the center of it all, and it is you who people are going to look at. We urge Denosa to be at the forefront of the discussions.
The following story contains graphic details which may offend sensitive listeners, including children. The Mudar family outside Thohoyandou in Limpopo is taking legal action against the Provincial Health Department. This after an alleged botched C-section of one of their family members. The alleged botched procedure led 34-year-old Sulani Mudar to excrete feces through her vagina after delivering her son at the Sherazini Hospital. Mudar's legal representative is Rabulani Gechichika.
This is a case of botched C-section where the mother was giving birth and then the doctors mishandled it somehow. Our focus is that the MEC of Health must account to what happened, because that is the negligence which is attributable to Chirizini Hospital.
There's been mixed reactions by opposition parties over the province's budget tabled in the KwaZulu-Natal Provincial Parliament today. Finance MEC Francois Rogers presented the provincial budget of 158.8 billion rand. The EFF's Mongezi Twala says the party supports the budget.
Welcome the additional funding today, which was tabled in the House. We feel that it's going to really assist and restore the hope of our people who are relying on the government to provide services, or especially on the frontline departments, Department of Health, Department of Education, where our kids are still subjected to harsh conditions. We, as the EFF, are going to ensure that we hold the executive accountable, ensuring that these monies are spent accordingly.
However, Musamkize from the MK party has rejected the budget.
Umkhonto wesizwe party in the legislature of KwaZulu-Natal, nothing was said about agriculture. 1.7% does not talk to any rural communities. Amakosi, in support of Amakosi, there's nothing. Where they've only mentioned education, but still the kids are not going to be getting free food. So whatever money they're trying to put, where is it going? Health. Currently, as we are sitting here, there's no medication.
The Jocelyn Smith kidnapping and human trafficking trial has been postponed until tomorrow due to the state's key witness falling ill in the High Court in Saldanha Bay in the Western Cape. Laurentia Lombard was being cross-examined by the lawyer for Jocelyn's mother, Kelly Smith, when she said she wasn't feeling well. The trial was set down until this Friday, but is now set to continue for the next 2 weeks. Kelly Smith, her boyfriend and a third co-accused, are accused of being part of the child's disappearance last year. Smith was allegedly paid 20,000 rand by Sangoma for Jocelyn. The Council of Europe's expressed alarm about the response of Turkish police to large anti-government demonstrations. The rights body says there are reports of disproportionate force against demonstrators who've been holding rallies for nearly a week. Mustafa has been taking part in a protest in Istanbul for the past few days.
Imam is not the only one behind the bars right now. We have journalists inside, we have municipality staff, we have students, friends, kids being detained, and we also are facing harsh police violence on the streets. They are allowing CHP leaders, main opposition party leaders, to speak on the streets for a few hours, but then they use heavy violence against protesters.
The top story, President Ramaphosa says nurses will be at the forefront of the NHI's implementation. He was speaking on the first day of the Nurses National Congress in Johannesburg. That's SAFM News. I'm Greg Goss.
And it's a very good afternoon to you. I'm Zai Khan. We're building up to Bafana and their road to the World Cup. They brace for Benin tonight. A battle for Group C bragging rights. 6 p.m. is the kickoff. And we also have more soccer news with Sepp Blatter and Michel Platini acquitted for the second time. All the details, more for you around 5:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 northbound in Boysens has a crash before Crown Interchange, queuing traffic both ways. The M1 southbound in Braamfontein has a crash before Crown Interchange, Golden Highway in Diepkloof queuing at Main Road, and the M1 southbound in Centurion has a stationary vehicle before Old Johannesburg Road. In KZN, the N2 southbound queuing towards Spaghetti Junction, the N3 westbound queuing towards Pavilion Shopping Centre exit, and Umgeni Road westbound slow moving through Springfield Park. In Cape Town, the N7 northbound has a truck crash reported before Plattekloof Road, the N1 Service Road outbound queuing towards the N7 highway, and Marine Drive outbound in Milnerton queuing towards Woodbridge Island. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
Something big is coming. 6:30 will never be the same. Amalanga Wafani, only on SABC 1.
Here, there, and everywhere. SAFM 105.2 FM in East London. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
Well, what for you moves the National Pulse today? We've been talking about many things. Bafana's come up because of the potential loss of 3 points, and that seems to now been that concern is dissipated. I don't know. We'll find out for sure just now. There's also other issues about this new border control management issue that's coming to effect potentially with the new technology, as well as that really interesting conversation with Michael Jordan that I had about the claims from the IMF that South Africa is the most difficult country in the world to do business with, and he refuted that. Listen to that chat. It's a podcast. You can catch it. Go to safm.co.za. But there's more, of course. We'll chat to Brand SA later on about South Africa's State of the Nation brand report, which I think is particularly important in the light of where we are as a country since the turn of the year, isn't it? But let's talk about the state of the ANC, isn't it? So the ANC Secretary General Fikile Mbalula has put a stop really to all conferences until members go through a political education foundation course. So Mbalula sent a letter to the provinces. He said the ANC has decided a precondition for holding a conference at any levels, regions, provinces, will be proof that its members had gone through the foundation course at the party's political school. The question is why? And if so, why has it not been done before? What have they discovered or uncovered about ANC leadership in various regions that they didn't know before? Sandile Swana is going to give us all the answers. He's a political analyst. Sandile, appreciate your time as always. Thanks for connecting with the National Pulse.
Oh, great pleasure, Ashraf. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So are you surprised by this plan of action from the ANC, that political school or nothing? You have to go to school and pass first, essentially.
An intervention, whether this is a correct intervention is another matter, and my view is that this is not the most profound intervention that is needed, but an intervention has been needed for some time. You will discover that, as early as 2016, and I'm sure some could comment about the period before, would be that when they are preparing for these conferences, and I did comment to some of the comrades that they must postpone those conferences of 2016, 2017, because the caliber, the average quality of the branch member and the average delegate, therefore, who's going to go to the ANC conference is extraordinarily low compared to the type of people our people relied on during the apartheid era to be the leaders under dangerous conditions. So the ones that are there now, first of all, they are generally not competent, fit for purpose, in terms of actual skills that are needed to be an organizer in the ANC, in terms of being able to prepare discussion documents, study discussion documents in the economy, education, and the various sectors. They are not fit for that. They do not know the history and the purpose of the ANC. They do not know the morals of the African National Congress, and professional ethics are not there. So you cannot take those people through a crash course. That would be the equivalent of taking a pig that you see, this is a pig, and putting lipstick on it and think it will be a lady. The type of thing that is needed in a proper ANC cadre or a political activist in South Africa, especially with the challenges we're facing, is not somebody who's got something that is put on top of them. It must be inside. You know, there used to be that advert of tomorrow. I'm sorry to advertise on your thing.
It's a wonderful advert. I remember it very clearly. Go ahead. Yeah.
It's not inside, it's on top. So this course that Mbalula is going to give these people is going to be something on top that they are going to go through it. There are no exams to be passed, and there is no track record of morality and accurate practice. So the whole thing is desperate. It's desperate.
But it's interesting you say so, because, you know, I often talk about, I mean, not just here in some of the other projects I'm involved in, we speak about the culture of an organization or the culture of a country, like they talk about Japan and being spotless. It's a culture of a nation, right? So we can talk about a culture of a football club or a rugby club and so on, and different organizations. Does this suggest, if you say it's not inside, it's on top, that the culture within the ANC needs absolutely urgent revision, but it has to, you know, culture is not a policy statement. Culture is an inherent way that you do things faced with challenges. That culture at this current moment is not working for the ANC.
No, it's not. It's extremely difficult if you interface with comrades of the ANC to find somebody who meets the minimum ethical requirements that we were brought up with in our homes by our grandmothers and parents. They are also ever wanting to discuss corruption. They are lazy, they don't do things properly. These people cannot be part of a serious organization. And we are not going to take them to a 3-day course or whatever this thing that Mbalula wants to do, an online tick boxes and then some short, multiple choice questions. That's not going to change the culture of wickedness and evil that they are used to practice on a daily basis.
Because that would mean, I mean, these people you're referring to, you know, for example, they're more than just, you know, you could get a supporter of a party who's not a card-carrying member, right, who votes for the party during an election. Then you get a card-carrying member who votes for the party during an election, but who's actually not active at branch level. We are talking about people who've been elected at branch level, so they already are decision makers, and these are the ones that needs further training. I mean, that says a lot about this massive gap within the ANC right now, isn't it?
Yes, I mean, yes, they're correct. You see, because they are having the politics of the stomach. Now, conference is coming. You are going to manipulate everything in the branch so that you become the delegate. Because the person who wants to win the presidency of the ANC bribes the delegates. The one who is staying at home, if you are from outside somewhere, you'll be there at home. This guy will be at Nazareth, sitting there in his hotel room, one candidate after another coming to make an offer, and then he takes his offers and pockets them. You don't have no way of ever knowing that he ever voted the way that you had asked him back home that he must vote. So he has no capacity to read any document that is prepared by the ANC for the purpose of the conference. He cannot contribute anything. He just wants to come to Joburg, be in the conference, vote, and then go home with a packet of money.
So when you said he takes when you said takes the offer and pockets them, what does that mean?
Sorry?
When you said that person takes the offer and pockets them, what does that mean?
Okay. One of the videos of Helen Zille on the social media, when he was talking about the money, the amount of money that was given to Cyril for the 2017, Fair 17, the question was, what was this money for? What was it used for? When everybody answers this question, eventually it becomes clear that this money was put into the pockets of the voting delegates so that they vote for CR17. A lot of the officials who end up taking senior positions, a slate is funded. Your slate wins because you've paid the delegates the correct amount, delegate by delegate.
And you're saying that's not in dispute. I mean, you've got that's indisputable. There's facts. No ANC person will call in and say that's completely out of order. You're saying that's the facts.
No, these are facts. They know it themselves, and Helen Zille stated it as well. This is well known. It's well known that when you want a position, you don't get a position because you are a superior performer. You are given a bankrupt, dysfunctional ward somewhere in your locality, and you turned it around and made a great success of it, and so on. These people have got no. The only thing they do is to manipulate branch processes, regional processes, and provincial processes, and national processes to get the highest office possible. And the manipulation is falsification of records and collecting money in the form of bribes.
Okay,
that is what is going on.
Let's go back to the initial point, right? This whatever, whether you agree with it or not, this education, school, we talk about, where they need to go to get their training and then set up these conferences, right? What has brought it on? That means what has motivated it? Whether it works, we can have another conversation, but what has motivated it?
So you must bear in mind that the principle is functional for a long time. It's what, maybe 24 years ago, when they introduced the concept, November 2000, the concept of a new cadre, that the ANC now needs a new cadre. So this course that they are going to is to produce a new cadre, a new cadre that you've never seen of the ANC.
But my point is, has this come about because the ANC leadership, and they've seen some of the issues and the changes in Gauteng as well as in KZN, they increasingly realize they have to escalate this new vision and new culture because what comes up next is a local government election.
Yes, it's the losses. They've been losing support, electoral support, no question about it. So they must do something. And the loss of support is also linked to the fact that even when they win a ward or they win a municipality, the person that they deploy there is not fit for purpose. And that has been costing them votes. It's a vicious cycle. That is what it is all about.
All right. Well, you've certainly got us thinking about many, many things, Sandile Swana. Thanks for your time. Political analyst Sandile Swana. And he's going to leave me with this image, as he said. If you find a pig, or you take a pig and you put lipstick on the pig, it's still a pig. It's not a woman with lipstick. Now, you make of that image what you will. Of course, you are connected to the National Pulse.
The Cheetahs are very hungry for victory. However, Bafana say they are in the business of collecting 3 points. The West battles it out with the South. This is the FIFA World Cup 2026 African qualifier. Experience the delight of African football. Benin versus South Africa. On Tuesday, 25 March at 5:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4, S3, and at 6 p.m. on SABC radio stations. Also, available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
This Human Rights Month, SAFM is deepening a culture of social justice and human rights. It's a time to reflect, engage, and take action for a more just society. From thought-provoking discussions to powerful stories, SAFM is leading the conversations that move us. Because your voice matters, your rights matter, and together we shape a better future. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. Who says talking never solves anything? SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. Ashraf Garda on SAFM.
Okay, so it's interesting. We talk about the ANC. We talk about the IMF discussing and saying that South Africa is the most difficult country to do business with. But then, as Michael Jordan, the former CEO of FNB, said, but actually it's number 49 or 49. What about the 100 other countries they haven't even looked at anyway, right? But it certainly talks about certain perceptions of our country, right? And we know there's issues like the USA and Donald Trump, and he's got his own perceptions. What then is the overall perception of our country now? I don't know if you know this. There's an annual State of the Brand report, State of the Nation brand report put together by Brand SA, right? And the latest one has just been delivered today. So let's find out all about it, the hypothesis around it, what that really means to Brand SA, to the country, but certainly to you and I as well. With me is the newly appointed CEO of Brand SA, Neville Maichi. Neville, appreciate your time, and first of all, congratulations on your new position. It's like a month, I think, so the honeymoon is still on, right?
Thank you very much, Ashraf. The honeymoon is over. It disappeared after the first week. We're straight into it.
Well, there you are. Okay, maybe that's the hard-working vision. The culture is correct in that case, right? Okay, tell me about this State of the Nation brand report. Why does it happen? Why is it important?
Yeah, Ashraf, part of what we do as Brand South Africa is to, of course, market the country and to market the brand South Africa globally. And we can't do it without understanding what the key issues are and how to respond to those issues, both domestically as well as internationally. So we've been conducting this survey for the last, this is the 8th edition of the report actually coming out. So we did a soft launch today, but we'll be doing the main launch in May, where we'll incorporate also sentiments from a global survey, which we are currently doing at the moment. And the purpose of this is really to identify critical areas that the country needs to look at, the country's image, governance, and development, as well as identifying key strengths that would assist us as Brand SA in positioning the messaging accordingly for the country.
So to confirm, you're saying the soft launch was today, that is local input, and the bigger launch in May will reflect global input as well. That's the big difference, right?
So it's two surveys. Mm-hmm. So this one here is a domestic one. So it's internally driven, looking at South Africa. We went out, interviewed South Africans, got their input in terms of their sentiments, in terms of the nation pride, in terms of how they view South Africa currently, and how they view themselves playing a part in really re-enhancing and developing the country. With this one being concluded, so that we, on Mail and Guardian on Friday this week, will publish some of the results that have come from that report, and then we'll make it available to the public. And then running concurrently with that is another survey that we're doing, which is focusing purely on the global market, on how we are viewed internationally, and how, as Brand South Africa, we need to ensure that we can position ourselves to deal with the headwinds, as well as the flu that we are currently seeing out there coming from the West. And we are able to then respond accordingly to that.
So in terms of the findings that you have right now, what can you share right now?
Yeah, so what was quite interesting, Ashraf, what was at the top really that came across in interviewing South Africans as to what they see themselves, how they see themselves participating in the economy. The first thing is they view themselves truly as South Africans who are patriotic and who really want to defend the country. But they're not oblivious to the challenges that are there. But within those challenges, they see themselves, they honestly see a lot of hope, and the perceptions are shifting, not because everything has changed, but because there's this new sense of optimism, a lot attributed to the GNU formulation, the second part attributed to the G20 presidency of South Africa, and the third looking at government programs such as the NHI, as well as NSFAS and some of those programs that are really assisting some of the South Africans. So in terms of NHI, which was quite interesting, and we had a debate around this, was, of course, at the moment, South Africans have not had any proper healthcare system that has assisted them. And now they see this as a sense of optimism in terms of how they're going to benefit from the new the NHI. But that's just but one example of how the shift has actually moved.
Okay, driven by the GNU. And this local survey, I mean, how representative is it?
Yeah, so we cut across basically LSM 7 to 10 in terms of looking at the perceptions of South Africans. But just to take you back slightly, Ashraf, this survey started actually in 2017, and at the time, we were still the miracle child that has really transitioned from the dark past of apartheid into this new optimism. And that transition really lasted, predominantly driven by Madiba, and were well respected. Then we had some bumps and tribulation through the way, but that whole inherent sense of South Africa being an opportunity still remained in the backdrop. But it was important for us to continue ensuring that the messaging of South Africa being not only an opportunity for investments and trade, but also for tourism is at the top of the lips. And of course, that transitioned over time, and we were hit by, of course, the credit crunch, and then we had the COVID, and then we had the riots in KZN. So all those have really been impacting on how the citizens have actually been responding. And you see the shift up and down in terms of since 2017 up to now. What was quite critical for us now is that there's an upswing in terms of confidence by South Africans in terms of the future for South Africa.
Okay, and so how up to date is this survey then?
Yeah, it's it's hot off the press. Hot off the press. It was concluded a month ago. Of course, we've been doing the tweaks and the likes and crossing the T's, dotting the I's, and hence it was important for us to release it now. And as you know, last week we held the Nation Brand Forum, and part of that was really to stimulate the conversation between the private sector, the public, as well as the civil society in terms of the nation brand and where we are currently. At the back of that, of course, is now this survey. We were hoping that it would have been ready by last week, because then we would have had discussion around it then. But it's not too late, because we'll still be able to take it to different provinces. So there are key learnings for certain departments that we need to ensure that we drive that message across. So it's quite important that we workshop it. It's not just seen to be handled at a national level.
And when you get, the local survey, and when you get the global survey, we won't even discuss the current currents in the world, not now in a moment, right? But when you get that information, right, what then is the role? What is the job of Brand SA? When you get that information, what do you do with it?
Yeah, so our learnings from this is really to look at those major challenges that are affecting or impacting negatively on the brand, and have a proactive approach in terms of how we deal with those. Let me give you an example of course, the elephant in the room, of course, is the US at the moment.
Yeah.
But we need to be a lot more proactive in terms of some of our traditional partners. And so that at the moment, we are very reactive. Of course, there's two parts to how we are responding to it. The one that is led at a diplomatic level through DIRCO and our president, and he's been quite clear in terms of the process that needs to be dealt with from that perspective. But the second aspect is where we come in terms of making sure that we reinforce the messaging about South Africa. Fortunately for us, we've got a lot of friends of South Africa who are in those markets, who are quite clear in terms of their relationship with South Africa, and they know the truth, and they're able to help us amplify that message in those markets.
Right. Here's the last thing, right? There's so many more things we can talk about, but here's the thing. What's come through with the whole Donald Trump, Elon Musk issue, right, is that South Africa as a country is under attack. Now, I know, certainly in the project that I'm involved in, we felt we needed to fight back and tell people how we champion our country, how we champion our nation, right? I'm suggesting that there if they are so successful, and the South Africans who actually lobbied them abroad have been so successful in turning a narrative about a country around in such a short period of time, then should we be having even more of these lobbies done by all of us who care deeply about a country, internal lobbying as well as external lobbying around the world to create a sense that, yes, we have problems, but we're nowhere near the problems that Donald Trump is talking about, because that perception is important to change.
100%. The biggest ambassadors for South Africa are its own people. And unfortunately, there's the small group that has gone ahead and done a lot of lobbying, not only in the US, but they've done similarly in the UK and other markets that we have seen as part of our own investigation. And unfortunately, what they don't realize is they're shooting South Africa in the foot. So as a result of whatever they're seeking to achieve, but needless to say, the critical area for us as Brand South Africa is to ensure that we can reinvigorate South Africans, to ensure that they continue to really love South Africa and amplify the message about the truth in respect of the
well, I'll tell you what, let's leave it at that, because I think that last part is critically important, and I think we as a nation and what we do on this platform as the National Pulse, we're absolutely on side on that. Let's work together. We absolutely have to do just that. Neville, appreciate your time. Neville Mikey, the CEO of Brand SA, a couple of months into the job, as you said, honeymoon clearly over, big challenges there's turbulence, but we have to overcome that, and therefore the global and the local perception of South Africa to the people of the world is so important. Let's get the news headlines. Here's Greg Hose.
Quick look at the headlines. President Ramaphosa says nurses will be at the forefront of the NHI's implementation. The SA Nuclear Energy Corporation is celebrating the 60th anniversary of its first nuclear reactor, and the Senate Minority Leader in the US has called for an inquiry after a journalist was mistakenly added to a messaging group where senior officials discussed an attack on the Houthis in Yemen. There's a full update at the top of the hour.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Starting off in Gauteng, the N12 R24 westbound has a crash reported at Galile's interchange, queuing traffic on both routes. The N3 northbound queuing towards Buccleuch interchange and Bremer Street in Pretoria, queuing at Vanderhof Road. In KZN, the N2 southbound queuing towards Spaghetti Junction, the N3 westbound queuing towards Pavilion Shopping Centre exit. In Cape Town, Voortrekker Road both ways queuing towards the N7 Jakes Gerwel Drive junction, the M7 Jakes Gerwel Drive southbound queuing towards the R300 highway, and the N1 outbound queuing towards Okavango Road exit. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Right, Zai, we've been talking Bafana first. Lesotho, yellow card. Second time, Bafana Lesotho, yellow card. What are we talking about now?
We were talking about the permutations, about the implications of Bafana winning tonight. I'm of the belief, listen, we are going through regardless of anything, but I guess there's plenty of home matches that still need to happen. But tonight is Benin, and it's the 2026 FIFA World Cup qualifier, 6 p.m. kickoff in Abidjan. This win will keep South Africa firmly on top of Group C, but behind the scenes, it has been anything but calm. Captain Ronwen Williams says the squad is focused, despite Hugo Bruges being denied access to the match venue for final preparations. Meanwhile, reports suggest Bafana may have dodged disaster after fielding Teboho Mokoena against Lesotho, even though he had picked up 2 yellow cards. Lesotho didn't file a protest within FIFA's deadline, meaning Bafana keep their points. All right, moving on to other results for the Asian qualifiers this time. Australia had a 2-0 win over China, and it took place at the Hangzhou Olympic Sports Centre. Tony Popovich, Australia, staying second on 13 points, moving 3 ahead of Saudi Arabia with 2 match days remaining. Only the top 2 sides qualify automatically for the finals, with Japan having already confirmed their spot. South Korea, they fell short of gaining full points. They were held to a 1-0 draw by Jordan. in their Asian World Cup qualifier. Saudi Arabia held off a dominant Japan to pick up a much-needed point. Hervé Renard's side drew 0-0 with the Samurai Blue at the Saitama Stadium in Group C in their road to 26. Now, former FIFA President Sepp Blatter and the French football great Michel Platini both cleared of corruption charges by a Swiss court 2.5 years after they were first acquitted of the offences. The pair, once among the most powerful figures in global football, were declared cleared of fraud at the Extraordinary Appeals Chamber of the Swiss Criminal Court. The 2022 indictment had accused Blatter and Platini of deceiving FIFA staff in 2010 and 2011 about an obligation for World Soccer's ruling body to pay Platini. The Swiss Attorney's General Office said it would review the written judgment before deciding whether to appeal again to the Swiss Federal Court, the country's highest legal authority. And finally, athletics, the newly crowned World Indoor Championship Women's 800-meter gold medalist Prudence Sekhodiso says she did not expect to finish first in China. The 23-year-old made history as the first South African woman to claim an 800-meter indoor medal. Sekhodiso believes that with continued hard work and thorough preparations for the World Championships in Tokyo later this year, she has the potential to claim another medal.
Well, it's still anything can happen, but I mean, I'm just gonna, train the way I've been training. I'm gonna stay healthy. I'm gonna make sure that I'm injury free. And I feel like if I keep, I keep the, what can I say? If we do the same thing that me and my coach are doing right now, going forward, I think we will medal as well in Tokyo.
And that's a wrap of the sport. We'll have more here on SAFM Top Sport with Michael Abramson.
I was saying we were talking off air about this fancy anomaly. Bafana ahead at the moment, and if they win, they're clearly, I think, about 4 points. It'll be about 4 ahead of Benin. I don't have it with me, but you can check it out. But here's the interesting thing. Then they've got 4 more games to go. And of the 4 more games to go, they've got 2 home and 2 away, right? And the 2 away games are against Lesotho and against Zimbabwe, who just happens to be playing. Listen, don't get into arguing about border management here, right? But they happen to be playing those away games in South Africa. So that is why this game, if we draw, we're in pole position. If we win, we're like 10 meters from the finishing line because we have 4 home games, and if we botch that up, I mean, that would be crazy. Then we don't deserve to go to the World Cup.
I think this is why Group C is so spicy, because it feels like we're almost doing a peri-peri test at the moment. So let's hope tonight's game is going to be that fiery match that we expect from our boys.
And win. More sports.
And win.
Yeah, more sports
if
tomorrow.
If we lose, it's back to calculating and permutations.
Yeah.
Something big is coming. 6:30 will never be the same. Amalanga Wafani, only on SABC 1.
If we have rights, shouldn't we also have opinions? SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Well, let's talk about those facts and figures with Jimmy Moyahu, who's the SAFM Market Update. Jimmy, what's moving markets today?
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Good afternoon to the listeners. We're going to be taking a look at a couple of developments today. We're taking a look at some results from the likes of Master Drilling and Remgro. They gave us updates on their performances. Remgro was the first half of the year's performance, whereas Master Drilling was the full year's numbers. We're going to be reflecting on those numbers and speaking to both those companies and seeing how they performed. We're also going to be taking a look at a conversation with Standard Bank around the impact of the 2025 budget on consumers. Obviously, that budget wasn't something that went over the best in terms of South Africans and what was proposed there. So we're going to look at some of the permutations that came out of that budget, or the proposals that came out of that budget, and see how they affect us if they haven't already. And we've also got a conversation with the Deputy Minister for Trade, Industry and competition, looking at the fact that looking at the fact that South Africa is asking the G20 to support its efforts to get the African Free Trade Continental Agreement off the ground. So we're going to look at that, and we're going to see what we mean by support and what we are hoping to achieve in asking for the G20 countries to help us out as a country and as a continent in that respect. And then, because it's Tuesday, we've got an agri feature today. We're going to be taking a look at some alternative uses for hops, not just going into beer, but apparently going into other things as well. We've got a company called Preserve Botanica that's been involved in that space, and we're going to take a look at that as part of our agri feature. Before we get to all of that, the markets have had a slightly better day, I suppose, than what we've seen in recent performances. The market's still very, very uncertain and still processing quite a bit, but we take the green day that was on the local front, and it looks as though this was amidst perhaps some of the red movements around the world. Start with international markets. The Hong Kong, the Hang Seng, the biggest loser in Asian markets, down more than 2%, whereas the Nikkei was the biggest gainer, up about 0.46% in that market, or in that region rather. If we look at European markets, the CAC 40 in France up 0.95%, the DAX 0.8% in the green, and the FTSE 0.5% in the green. All three European major markets in the green. US markets all in the green at the moment. The Nasdaq 0.41% in the green, and the S&P 0.25% up. South African markets finished in the green as well, with the all share and the top 40 up more than 0.8% in each case. The resources sector was up 1.25%. The financial sector was up even better at 1.6%, and industrials were up about 0.1%. So a green day across the board in terms of South African equity markets. And when we look at the rand, it's slightly weaker against the dollar, but still firm at 18 rand 21, 23 rand 59 against the euro, 1970 against the euro, 23.59 against the British pound, and the Australian dollar, one Australian dollar will cost you 11 rand and 49 cents. The gold price rebounding nicely. It was closer to that $3,000 level, now at $3,024 a fine ounce. Brent crude not so nice, $73.22 a barrel. Platinum and palladium still below $1,000 in each case. Platinum the closest to 1,000 at $979. And anyone looking at Bitcoin, it is just shy of $88,000, still around the 1.6 million rand mark. Yesterday it was about 1.6 million and a couple of rands. This today it's about 1.6 million and 2,000 rands. So moving about 2,000 rands between this time yesterday and today. Not much of a movement there, but we'll look to see how that continues to unfold. We're going to unpack some of these market movements in our show a little later on when we come back. But for now, Ashraf, back to you.
Right, Jimmy, thanks for that. Looking forward to your show, 6 to 7, and then sport coming up from 7 to 8, and perhaps reflection and celebration if we can pull up a super result. The final playing at 6 p.m. But what it means now is I need to get a sense of what your pulses are feeling, which means I'll take your calls after this.
SAFM. Prime time all day long. Ashraf Garda on SAFM.
I tell you what, there's two conversations we've had in the last half an hour. One about the ANC and what Sandile Swanen made about just, the branches and just being ill-qualified to lead. And the other one from the CEO of Brand SA about the global and the local image of South Africa. I think it's so important. So welcome your thoughts on that and just about anything else too, right? Let's start with Maxwell in Polokwane. Hi, Maxwell.
Hi, Ashraf. How are you doing?
I'm good indeed, right. Go for it.
I think what we are getting wrong is what the foundational cause is intended to do. Surely it's not, an all-in-one pill where it's going to solve all the issues affecting the ANC. But it's one of the measures, or at least one of the tools that are going to be used to make sure that the ANC does renew itself. Of course, I heard your analyst speak about that there's no exam and there's no track record. Well, there is an online exam, not exam as such, but a test that is done, and that also can apply to people who can't read, because what is done is that they put them through training, but beyond training, they are able to align them with the ANC that was meant to be, because one cannot deny the fact that the member of the ANC now is not the member the member of the ANC pre-1994. I think the ANC itself has assessed that situation and has said that I think we have to put certain measures in place. Provinces, PECs have undergone the foundational course, RECs have, sub-regions are going, and branches ultimately are going to have to.
Yeah, I think, look, your point is valid, but I agree with you. It's not about an exam where you're going to go and mark every... I think that'll be ridiculous. But I think the point that Sandile made that comes through for me is like, if you're already a branch representative, and now you are representing the branch at regional level and making decisions at regional level, but you're ill-equipped, you've been put there on a populist vote at branch level, but you're ill-equipped, that means you're likely to make poor decisions, and that is allowing a position where is why the ANC is hamstrung. I mean, that's really what he's saying. Now, whether he's right, I mean, we all have our own opinions about it. And that's what he's saying. And he says the attempt of this is to address that they see this void in terms of leadership coming through from branch all the way up.
Yeah, and that's why ANC has mitigated that issue by saying that, by issuing that letter you made reference to.
Yeah. Okay, point made. I think you're right as well. I think Sandile is right in a different way as well. And he's certainly not just clear exams, not at all, right? Okay, let's get further comments. KB in Soweto. Hello, KB.
Good afternoon, Ashraf, and good afternoon to the listeners of SAFM.
Yeah, good talking to you, KB. Go for it. What's your point?
Yeah, I'd like to talk about the issue of USA and South Africa.
Yeah, go for it. Permission granted.
Yes. I think President Ramaphosa should send the delegation to the U.S. to clarify three things. Firstly, he should send the delegation to apologize to the Trump administration about the Rasul remarks. And the second one, he should go and clarify about the AfriForum, about the land redressing issues of South Africa policies. And the third one, he should send the delegation also to persuade them to participate fully in the G20 conference.
Okay.
But the issue,
do you not get a sense that their mind's made up already? The USA, that is. You see, there's one thing voicing a concern, like Donald Trump didn't say, let me call Ramaphosa, I've heard bad things about your country. Can you clarify? No, he didn't. They actually made decisions, and they publicly made those decisions and then repeated it. It's not like one day, it's like every single day between him and Elon Musk and the Secretary of State. Somebody's commenting about our country. So my question is, and I'm not saying, so I'm always for negotiation, but would you understand when someone says, like, what is there to talk to them at the moment their mind's made up?
Yes, I understand that, but we should try something to reduce tension with the US, because we need USA, because we need a lot of development and trade.
Well, I agree they have to reduce tension. I think even Ibrahim Rasool, in fact, said so himself, right, that they have to find a way to make it work. So, point taken. KB in Soweto, thanks for that. Let's go to Durban now. Sam in Durban, hello.
Hi, Ashraf.
Yeah.
Hi, how's it going?
Yeah, good talking to you, sir.
As usual.
Much appreciated.
I think we're all getting it wrong with the Trump administration. I personally think Cyril Ramaphosa needs to look out of the box in terms of sending, and I'll give you my reasons why.
Mm-hmm.
I've got nothing against any race, etc. Send an Indian guy or an Indian lady, 45 to 50 years old. They don't have to have a degree. You give them a crash course on international relations policy, etc. Someone sharp that can walk the talk.
But why somebody of Indian persuasion?
Preferably an Indian, Hindu, or a Christian, a Catholic.
Okay, but
I'll
why?
give you my reasons why.
Yeah.
You've got Vance with an Indian wife. You've got Kash Patel. You've got Gabbard, Tulsi Gabbard. You've got Goswami, Senator Goswami. That's on the Trump side. On the Elon Musk side, now, whoever we send needs to, don't worry about Trump, you need to win over Elon Musk. Elon Musk has surrounded himself with Durbanites and Indians from Durbanites.
Oh my goodness, okay.
The Indian guy runs SpaceX from Durban. He runs a Tesla battery plant.
I hope he's not tweeting on behalf of Trump as well.
The capital and equity guy that's working for Trump 10 years is a boy from grade school in the Free State, but he's ex-Durban now.
Okay, so, Sam, we don't even have time to run through it. I'll tell you what, Sam, feel free to just WhatsApp us all those names. I'm very interested in that, by the way, okay? But your point is, you're saying they will carry influence. Why do you think in this world, I mean, if they really want to carry influence, then they should go for an Afrikaner? Because in the light of all the things that's happened, the issue to protect the Afrikaner is number one on the agenda. The other one is the ICJ story. So wouldn't it be an Afrikaner or a Jewish person? If, for example, you're saying that identity politics is that important.
I think, you know what, there's hundreds of Indians working at the White House at the moment. You need someone there. If you win over Elon Musk, you won this battle.
Okay.
The rest is easy. Take them for a bunny chow otherwise.
Okay. All right. Give me all those names. If there's 20, I really want to know about it. Just WhatsApp us. Seriously, I really want to know. Thanks for that, Tuko. It certainly got me thinking. Right, let's get to some of the voice notes, and there are many, in fact, and still a lot of it about the ambassador story, right? It won't go away.
Hi, Ashraf. Great show as always. Ashraf, on the ambassador side of things, if we can get an ambassador that's going to save AGOA and save 100,000 jobs, can't we go with that ambassador that's going to save those jobs? Great show as always, Chris Gauteng.
Thanks, Chris. Well, I mean, I think, Chris, you're right that amongst the many things, as we've heard, the job of the ambassador is to enhance relationships between two countries. So it's broken down at the moment. Is there someone in this country that can fix that? Whoever it is, it doesn't matter which political party or if it's a business person, who can fix our relationship with the USA in the interest of South Africa? That's the big question.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Hope you're well. Just listening to that discussion about the ANC's political school. I think that Cremora ad, it's not inside, it's on top. It should be the opposite. It should be what's inside. It's the integrity, the character and everything, the value system that CADA has, not about being taught how to do things right and everything like that. And that's where the quality lies.
Well, that's what the analyst said. He said, look at what, it's not inside, right? It's on top now, but he says it should be inside. If you listen properly to that conversation, please listen to the podcast as well, sfm.co.za. You'll find it inside our website, if I can say that.
Ashraf, yalezo here in Itsolo. Yeah, man, Ashraf, the way Mr. Swana has put the issues is very correct. I don't know, I think our ANC system, how we nominate, how we run our branches, I think it needs a complete overall. Otherwise, probably what Mbalula is trying, we will see. Thanks, Ashraf.
Thanks for that. And I think I've told many people this as well, when they've said, how come so-and-so hasn't done better within the ANC? Because I think the branches play a huge role in determining the leadership of the ANC at Congress. You have to win branches in big numbers to get the numbers. So you can come on air and impress all of us with your fantastic vocabulary and how articulate you may be. But if you can't win a branch and branches with whichever way that resonates with those branches, you're not going to succeed as a leader within the ANC. Whether you're right for the country is another conversation.
Hello, Ashraf. James from KZN, from Bern. Very good show again. I really enjoyed the frankness that your speaker spoke about what some of the problems within the ANC are. And I think the other parties that also can learn from that too. But he really he obviously has a very good understanding of what's gone wrong, and I think he's can be commended on what he said. And if the ANC is serious about improving, they need to look at those types of things. Thanks again.
Well, thank you. I'm glad we got him saying whatever he said. So that's his perspective as far as the show is concerned, and the many compliments we received. Thank you. It's a complete team. You know that rugby phrase, stronger together? Spot on. Myself, the production team, Timber, Keys, and then from a digital side, Rusani, all of us make up the team. And then we have the whole control, the technical team that gets swapped on every time. Every one of us makes what it is to deliver to you the National Pulse Daily. So we try and set the highest standards possible, and we want to be held to those standards. I think it's that important because we want to win every single day. We win, you win too.
This is Peter. Yeah. Can you ask Zaika to say Mudimu Kiro when he wrap up the show at 5:30? Thank you.
Right. Okay. Well, okay. You know, the game starts at 6 o'clock. So as it stands now, regarding that appeal story, I mean, we'll never know that until afterwards, right? But so as it stands, the game will be played as per normal. But I understand Teboho will not play this game because now they know he should have been suspended last week. So he'll be suspended this time round.
Good afternoon, Mr. Ashraf. It's Feather Shaka here in Free State, coming from Limpopo, heading to Western Cape. Mr. Ashraf, you have to wait for 5 years. 5 years in order for you to claim the road accident fund if you want to go through the courts, because there is a shortage of judges. And right now, Umama Mandisa Maya has not been replaced. What is going on?
Okay, let's pick out another year's one.
Hi, Ashraf. My name is Leslie Ma. To make it short, why are we supporting the Palestine more than to support the USA? The USA have got many companies here in South Africa that create jobs, economy, and make our diplomatic relation very good. So what is the reason for us to support the Palestine as if we are default supporters of the ANC? Because South Africa is not ANC.
In fact, we played that one before, and I made the point that certainly that has been the position of this country, saying that they will support a country that, according to them, has been oppressed, and they will not allow that to happen. That's really been, besides the camaraderie between them over the years, but the primary reason, they feel there's a genocide, and if South Africa were victims of apartheid, we needed the world to help us, and that's what they're doing. That's how I interpret it.
Hi, Ashraf. My policy is on a statement of Ramaphosa. But that statement about NHI is very, it's a wrong divide on its own. He's pushing more to the masses, and the masses are clapping their heads. Instead of negotiating their salary tomorrow, they'll be striking. And then the doctors that are being unemployed, where does he put them in? Because even the doctors are the backbone of this thing. No, let them first hire those doctors before he can push more workload without talking about the salary of the nurses. We're sick and tired of seeing the strike each and every year represented by the unions. And that's my case.
Well, you do rest your case. Points taken.
Afternoon, Ashraf. I think the coach knew or they realized that the player is in yellow cards. That's why they took him out on the second half.
Really? You think that would have made a difference? Like, okay, if you're going to deduct half the points only. Well, okay, yeah.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. On the issue of crime, I think all of us need to take part in fighting this crime, because for as long as we say it is a government issue, then it means that we cannot win against the crime. But if we can take it as a societal issue where everybody needs to be involved, we will win against crime. We will, because first of all, the criminals are staying within us. We know them.
Well, maybe it is a big question. How is it we've not been able to stamp out the biggest single crisis in our country? Well, I would say poverty and inequality is another, but let's say crime in over 20 years at least. Forget 30, at least 20 years. We've not been able to sort it out. That's a crime.
Hi, Ashraf. The answer to your question, why are we not dealing with crime ever since we knew of it long time ago, is because criminals are the same police that are supposed to deal with crime. That's why we cannot deal with crime, because police are the criminals. Even from top there, from parliament, those are criminals. That's why we can't deal with crime.
Well, I mean, I don't know. You can say some people are criminal and some police officers are criminal. They've been found out. But it's not everybody, is it?
Hi, Ashraf. My goodness, thanks to FIFA fine prints about these regulations and the complaining or protesting time. You remember this happened to us, I think it was between us and Ghana, and we were disqualified to go to Qatar World Cup because we delayed on protesting the error that we were alleging. So, like the president has said, this should be an eye-opener. Next time, those who are responsible for the disciplinary reports of the players and everything, they need not to sleep on their duty. Thanks, Ashraf.
Thanks. Did it happen with us in the Qatar World Cup that there was I can't remember the story properly, but there was also the other one. Remember, we had to go to, I think it was AFCON, and Pitso Mosimane was the coach, and we got our numbers wrong. And then we also got the numbers wrong with the Cricket World Cup when we hosted against Sri Lanka. We thought we needed to get to that score to win if rain comes, and we got to the score, and we didn't lose another wicket, and Mark Boucher was batting. We've had too many of those stories, man, really.
Afternoon, Ashraf. When I'm Cape Town. Ashraf, many things that Ramaphosa does as a person and as a president are disgraceful. First, this guy, many people died in Marikana. Many years ago, he said he'll go to Marikana, many years ago, even today, he never went to Marikana. This guy doesn't care about people. 5 years ago, on his, according to his mouth, there was a pandemic. It ended. He waited for 5 years to be called after 5 years to talk to the nurses. I mean, that's disgraceful.
Oh my goodness, man. I'm looking for something positive to end the show on, but here's one. Let's see.
Good evening, this is Derek from Oklanga. What I'd like to know is, with all these callers phoning in and complaining about the state of South Africa, the high crime rate, the unemployment rate, just everything, every state-owned entity broken, how is it possible then that people still vote for this ANC government? They are criminals. These ANC politicians live a lavish lifestyle while the poor people live in Zozo huts, have not got water. But they don't care. The ANC do not care. I want to know, how is it possible that they still get one solitary vote?
Well, look, that's the show. Why they get votes. There's a perception they can do well, and there's always that. But it's certainly changed in the last election. What happens now, I don't know. There's lots of jockeying for positions from all the political parties. Perhaps a conversation we need to have sometime tomorrow or after. That's the show. Thanks for listening. Absolutely, thanks for engaging. Welcome all your thoughts and your comments. Sometimes we agree, sometimes we don't. It remains, however, consistent as the National Pulse. Thank you. Goodbye. Here's the news with Greg House.
Thank you again, Ashraf. Nurses to lead NHI and call for inquiry after leak of US classified info. Good evening.